I just can't believe in anything anymore. Ludi clutched the heavy books to his chest. Hurrying through the sun-drenched corridor, the hem of his skirt swayed with every step. A stray lock of hair bobbing atop his head. He tightened his grip, pressing his fingertips firmly against the books. Byrne was leaning against Oa's stone pillar, his dark eyes sparkling. As he raised Oa's hand in greeting, a playful smile hung on his lips. As his gaze fell upon the hurrying figure, "Where are you off to in such a rush?" Ludi came to a jarring halt, looking quite flustered. "Ah, hello. On my way to deliver some documents to the Grand Priest." Byrne narrowed his green eyes slightly, leaning in close to his face. The small braid at the end of his hair brushed against his shoulder. Well, there's something much more important than that. Byrne hooked Oa's finger under Ludi's chin, forcing him to look up. "Want to go on a date with me? For your sake. I've turned down every single girl who invited me. Did you know that?" Oa's book slammed heavily onto the top of Byrne's head. "Ow, what was that for?" Byrne cried out in protest, clutching his head. His features contorted in pain. Carl adjusted his black-rimmed glasses. A stack of documents gripped in his hand. "Stop bothering Lulu while Hay's working. I can't believe you'd hit your own adorable little brother like that," Byrne shrieked, pointing at Carl. Carl's expression remained cold. "You aren't the least bit adorable." Ludi gave a slight bow while still clutching the books. A polite smile on his face. "Thank you very much for your concern." Carl watched him in silence. A faint glint behind his lenses. He said nothing. "Humph." Carl crossed his arms over his chest, turning his face away to avoid eye contact. "I didn't help you for your sake or anything. Found you, Lulu." Aang pounced from behind without warning, his arms locking tightly around Ludi's shoulders. Ludi let out Oa's startled cry. The books in her arms nearly slipped. "Why are you with those green grass twins?" Aang asked, tilting his head. Byrne and Carl froze instantly. It was as if swaying blades of grass had sprouted from their heads. Aang let go of her arm. Silver strands of hair fell over his forehead. His gaze was lazy and dreamy. "If you have some time, would you like to take a nap with me?" Well. Ludi clutched her books. She gave an awkward smile. "Actually, am not free at all." Hein's shoulders slumped. His expression turned dejected in an instant. "Hey, stay away from Lulu." "Who are you calling green grass?" Ludi kept walking, holding her books. A helpless smile played on her lips. "You guys are too noisy." Aang sat behind her. He muttered under his breath. Heavy footsteps echoed. "You are all far too loud. As the four holy knights, your behavior is absolutely disgraceful." Oa's white-gloved hand reached out. It firmly gripped Ludi's shoulder. He pulled her into his arms. Gran looked down at the group. "Stop harassing my attendant. She is not just your attendant." How utterly shameless. Lulu is clearly my Lulu. Ludi lowered her eyes. A bitter smile touched her lips. "I can no longer believe in anything. This is all just too absurd. They were supposed to hate me. Yet we've become this close without me even realizing it. But the thing I find most unbelievable is that my killer is among them. I will find that person, and I will personally uncover all the lies." Ludi lay in the casket. Her hands were folded over her chest. She was surrounded by clusters of white flowers. Her eyes were tightly shut. Her face was as peaceful as if she were fast asleep. What is this? Why can't I move?" The cemetery is crowded with people dressed in black. Low whispers drift through the air. "I never thought the Lady Census would pass away so suddenly from illness." Lady Ludi had only been in her position for a year, hadn't she? Passed away from illness? What does that mean? Could it be? Am I dead? Suppressed, hushed voices ripple through the crowd. Actually, there's a rumor. That she was assassinated? Isn't it obvious? Lady Ludi had a terrible reputation. Yeah, that promiscuous sinks. I heard that to secure her position. She slept her way through the entire Royal High Command. Calling her defiled senses is being kind. It's more like she was just her. Ludi's tightly closed eyes tremble slightly. Fire of rage ignites within her. This is too much. Although I'd heard the rumors before, this kind of talk is just too cruel. Since entering the temple, I haven't even held man's hand, even though I'm already dead. To think I still have to endure such treatment? When I was 10 years old, I was just a child living in an orphanage. My name was Ludi Flora. That was the day I was brought into the temple and became the Senses. The Senses is the guardian of the sacred spirit magic, responsible for protecting the entire kingdom. Usually, those with the power of purification are noble women, but I was born with an exceptionally powerful divine strength. And so, overnight, I became the Senses. My status as an orphan invited resentment. Malicious rumors spread like wildfire. Women in the shadows whisper to one another. Malice festers in the darkness. Even the four holy knights who were supposed to protect the Senses were filled with loathing for me. They cast sharp, disgusted glares my way. Her guardians had long since abandoned her. Words pierce her back like sharp blades. Even so, everyone at the orphanage was still so happy for me. Ludi runs toward the cheering children. She opens her arms and pulls them into Oe hug. Oe bright smile played on her face. It was her only source of solace. Ludi looked down at the pendant hanging from her neck. Mother Shirley, even when I was in pain, I always chose to endure it. I did my best to fulfill the role of the saint. Ludi knelt alone beneath the massive sacred tree. Her silhouette looked small and fragile in the vast, empty temple. Countless specks of light flickered within the tree's canopy. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She gripped the pendant tightly with both hands. Her knuckles turned white from the intensity of her grip. Oh, a suppressed sob escaped from her throat. But then, Oe's sharp blade suddenly pierced through her chest. Blood splattered through the air like falling flower petals. Ludi's body went rigid instantly. Her pupils constricted sharply in the shadows. Oe, warm liquid, stained her white robes red. Ludi's pupils contracted in shock. The cold tip of Oe's sword had run through her chest. Blood trickled from the corner of her mouth. It stained the pure white fabric of her collar red. Oe, figure in black, stood behind her. Gripping the hilt, he thrust the blade down with force. Ludi collapsed powerlessly to her knees. Her long hair spilled into the pool of blood. Ah, I remember now. One didn't die from an illness at all. I was stabbed from behind while I was praying. Who was it? Who could it have been? Oe, hand wearing Oe black glove, reached out. It grabbed the necklace with brutal force. Fingertips brushed against the blue gemstone. The necklace was violently ripped away. The metal chain snapped and shattered in the air. Ludi's eyes were filled with total despair. Stop it, please. Stop. Ludi reached out, a trembling hand toward the retreating figure. Her fingertips clawed desperately at the empty air. Give it back. That's very important to me. Tears trailed from the corners of her eyes, mixing into the pool of blood on the floor. That's right. I was murdered. Why? How could this have happened? I endured everything, only to end up dying such a wretched death. They even stole the pendant my mother left me. Then, what was the point of my life? To die just like this? Ludi's eyes snapped open. Her scion pupils trembled violently. Are you kidding me? Ludi sat up abruptly, propping one hand on the edge of the coffin. This is absolute nonsense. He roared in anger. Even if I have to crawl back from hell, I will curse that killer. For eternity, to think the senses is actually casting a curse? Cynics approached slowly. For someone who has died once, you're certainly lively. Ludi froze in place. Her pupils contracted in shock. You, Grand Priest? Ludi looked down at her hands. Her fingertips lightly touched her chest, feeling the beat of her heart. Ha! I'm alive. It seems the resurrection spell was, a success. Cynics tilted his head slightly. A hint of a smile in his eyes. I'm sorry to make a proposal just as you've woken up. But Cynics took a step forward. He gracefully opened his palm. Are you willing to cooperate with me? To find the person who murdered you? Ludi pressed a hand to her chest. Her pupils trembled with shock. Resurrection, and teaming up with the Grand Priest to catch the killer? Cynics spread his arms, his robes swaying in the light. He is the youngest Grand Priest in the temple. Not only does he hold a high position in the sanctuary, but he also wields great power within the imperial palace. Holding a heavy tome, he moves among the believers. He has a profound mastery of divine power. He was once the only person who recognized my potential. Cynics stood beneath the great tree, looking down at the young Ludi. Even with a busy schedule, he was the only one who truly cared for me. You must be very confused right now. Cynics touched his chest. A reassuring smile playing on his lips. I'll explain everything later. When I found you lying there, Ludi's long hair lay scattered across the cold ground. Blood had stained the marble tiles a deep crimson. He gathered Ludi into his arms. A complex golden magic circle manifested in his palm. I cast the resurrection spell in art known only to the Grand Priest. Ludi looked up at the man before him, his eyes full of bewilderment. So, that's how you saved me. Thank you, Grand Priest. Cynics turned around, his long hair cascading down his back. The resurrection was a success because you possess immense divine power. But before you awoke, you were in a state of suspended animation. I fabricated the story that you died of illness. I even held this funeral, all to deceive the enemy. Ludi pressed a hand to his chest, his fingertips trembling. The enemy, Cynics, reached out to steady his arm. You were stabbed, weren't you? Ludi lowered his gaze. His voice was barely a whisper. Yais. Ludi's eyes were filled with shock. I was likely pierced by a knight's sword. A longsword floated within a blood-colored mist, its blade wreathed in a crimson aura. Those are sacred weapons that only the chosen for holy knights are permitted to touch. The blades reject anyone else. Ludi grit his teeth, cold sweat trickling down his cheek. Which means the person who murdered me must be among them? Cynics looked Ludi straight in the eye. I do not believe this assassination was the work of a single person. Since behind the knight who stabbed you, there is likely a mastermind. Pulling the strings, Ludi gripped the front of his clothes. A mastermind. Cynics folded his hands. Furthermore, I suspect this involves a massive conspiracy. In the worst-case scenario, it may even have been orchestrated by the nobility or the royal family. Ludi held his breath, his pupils contracting with fear. He stares straight ahead. Falling into a deathly silence, Cynics closes his eyes. As the Grand Priest, I will never allow anyone to threaten the temple. He claps his hands together sharply. The crisp sound echoes through the room. That is why I want to work with you. Ludi rests her chin in her hand. Her eyes deep in thought. I see. I understand. Since the census is officially recorded as dead, you're free to move around now. Go find the truth. So, you want to use this information to hunt down the killer? Ludi suddenly clenches her fists, her eyes burning with determination. Of course, let's do it. Cynics is taken slightly aback. While I appreciate your decisiveness, aren't you being a bit too quick to decide? Ludi pumps her fist. This is exactly what I wanted, no matter the cost. In going to do it, I'm going to expose that bastard. Ludi grits her teeth. I'll make him kneel before me and kowtow in apology. Oh, 1,000 times. She clutches her chest, her gaze turning cold. I will definitely take back my stolen pendant. Cynics closes one eye helplessly. Lady Sang, your personality seems to have changed quite a bit. Ludi places a hand over her heart. A smirk, playing on her lips. This is the real me. That's right. I don't have to force myself anymore. To play the role of the I don't have to endure that unfair treatment ever again. From now on, I'll do whatever I want. Cynics stands to the side, watching her jump for joy. Compared to when you were the census, you look much better now. Ludi stops in her tracks. She turned her head to look at him. There was a hint of surprise in her eyes. Cynics offered a gentle smile. You're quite reliable now. I'd like you to keep a low profile for well, to investigate those nights, we need to take things one step at a time. Ludi tilted her head slightly. So, what exactly should I do? Cynics raised his index finger. The most effective way is to change your appearance and become an attendant to the 4 holy knights. That way you can infiltrate their inner circle. Ludi lowered her gaze. Her pupils trembled slightly. Those 4 individuals are the nation's idols. They are a group of heroes possessing immense martial power. The citizens cheer wildly along the streets. Flowers carpet the path for the hero's return. Ludi clutched her chest. Her brow furrowed deeply, even just as a caretaker. Approaching them is far too terrifying. What will happen if I get caught? Especially that terrifying guy. Cynics looked her straight in the eye. First, I'll have you serve as Grand's caretaker. She stood frozen on the spot. The cowlick on her head drooped limply. She fell into long silence. Ludi's eyes suddenly widened. Please, wait, a second. Grand Lilac. She spread her hands out, holding them up defensively. Her expression was frantic. Hay's the one who hates me the most. The true Purple Reaper. He earned great military honors in the war few years ago, and was appointed as Holy Knight because of it. Although he is an exceptional knight, his personality is cruel and ruthless. Ludi pressed hand to her forehead. She closed her eyes. If it's that man, he will definitely kill me without second thought. Cynics held up finger. Beaming with a bright smile, he'll be responsible for his daily needs, from his meals to his baths. First, gain his trust. Ludi shook her head frantically, waving her hands wildly in the air. Absolutely not. That's completely impossible. Hell, just kill me all over again. Cynics tilted his head, beaming a bright smile. Didn't you just say that you were willing to pay any price to achieve your goal? Ludi puffed out her cheeks, letting out a muffled huff. Her eyes filled with resentment and hesitation. Carl walked along the corridor, glancing at the colleague beside him. Hey Gran, I heard you still don't have a single attendant. He spread his hands, his tone flippant. Why not get one? It would make your life a lot easier. How about I introduce you to a beautiful woman? Gran swiped Carl's hand away, his gaze bone-chillingly cold. I don't need anything like that. If someone actually shows up claiming to be an attendant, I'll kick them out myself. Gran turned around, his cloak cutting a sharp, cold arc through the air. As he strode down the corridor, if anyone dares to annoy me, Gran glanced back, his purple eyes filled with ice. I'll cut them all down and throw them out. 3 days later, Ludi stood before the Grand Annex. This was where Grand Lilac lived. She looked down at her attire. The hem of her blue and white maid dress fluttered in the breeze. My appearance has changed, but I still can't relax. From now on, do I really have to look after that terrifying man? Gran's cold face flashed in her mind. Those icy purple eyes. Ludi hunched her shoulders, wrapping her arms tightly around herself. Back when she spoke to cynics, she had certainly made some bold claims to the Grand Priest. As long as I can achieve my goal, I'm willing to do anything. Ludi looked up, her eyes betraying her wavering resolve. Can I really pull this off? I understand this caregiver project. But Ludi gently brushed her hair. With the way I look now, they won't recognize me, right? Especially with this long hair. Although I used to always wear OA veil. They never had any interest in me to begin with. Perhaps it's better this way. Especially when it comes to Gran. He really despised me. That Gran? Gran stopped in his tracks. He glanced back over his shoulder. His gaze was icy. Ludi fidgeted nervously with her fingers. I want to head into town for OA bit. So, I was wondering if you could escort me. But what's the right way for OA senses to even bring that up? Gran stood silently in front. His back radiating an air of detachment. Gran's eyes were filled with loathing. You're always trying to gauge my mood. If you don't have any official business, then don't talk to me. He threw back his cloak and strode toward the end of the long corridor. Just looking at you makes me feel irritated. Ludi froze where she stood. Her pupils trembled in shock. Her hand moved weakly to clutch her chest. Sure, I was OA pain back when I was the same. But did he really have to be that harsh? She ruffled her long hair, screaming internally, what OA cold-hearted man? Cynics watched Ludi with OA gentle expression. Regarding your appearance, you don't need to worry. After losing your divine power, both your hair and eye color will change. To resurrect you, we exhausted an immense amount of holy power. So Ludi looked up suddenly. He pressed both hands against his chest. What, so my hair color is going to change soon too? Cynics nodded slightly. OA, trace of regret in his eyes. Yes, it was originally such OA beautiful color. I am truly sorry. Cynics lowered his gaze, his fingertips entwining with Ludi's long hair, his expression full of melancholy. Why are you apologizing? Ludi looked up, gazing into the Grand Priest's eyes. If you hadn't brought me back to life, I wouldn't even be standing here. He gave OA a brilliant smile, his tone light-hearted, compared to life itself. Hair color is OA small price to pay. Even so, hair is OA precious thing to OA woman, isn't it? You really are OA strange person. Sometimes you're quite intimidating. And yet, sometimes you're so thoughtful and considerate. Ludi stood by his side, feeling, a sense of wonder. You're just like, mother. Cynics' back stiffened. Who are you calling mother? He pressed OA fist against his lips and coughed softly. If you truly don't mind, then that's fine. Ludi stroked his long hair, his gaze becoming resolute. In truth, I don't care about my hair at all. More importantly, do you have OA's ceremonial dagger? Cynics took OA dagger from his waist, looking puzzled. I do, but what do you need it for all of OA sudden? Ludi took the hilt and yanked the blade from its sheath. The screech of metal on metal was sharp and piercing. Ludi gripped OA a handful of his long hair, holding the dagger across it, the edge pressing against the strands. Cynics' eyes widened, and he suddenly reached out to stop him. What are you doing? The blade sliced through, and the purple hair fell in severed clumps. Drifting and scattering through the air, Ludi tightens her grip on the sword's hilt. Her eyes are filled with resolve. If I'm starting OA's second life, I might as well make it, a clean break. To be honest, I feel much better this way. Cynics presses OA hand to his forehead. He closes his eyes, resigned. Your decisiveness is truly something to behold. By the following morning, her hair color has completely changed. Ludi stares at her reflection in the mirror. Her pupils contract in shock. Blonde, I'm really not the senses anymore. I'm OA guy now? As an attendant, she wears OA blue and white maid uniform. She walks down the long, empty corridor. Her footsteps echo on the stone tiles. To reclaim the pendant and find the killer, Ludi clenches her fists. Her knuckles turn white from the strain. First, I have to make him like me. She stands before the heavy wooden doors. She takes OA deep breath. She flings the doors open. Pardon the intrusion, Lord Gran. Ludi squares her shoulders. She announces loudly, as of today, I have been assigned as your new attendant. The room is silent as OA grave. Ludi freezes at the threshold. OA drop of cold sweat rolls down her temple. Ludi knocks on the door again, with OA forced, flattering, smile on her face. Excuse me. I'm the new attendant. It's Lulu. There isn't OA sound from inside. Her smile fades. Is no one going to answer? They clearly said someone would be visiting today. The senses and the Four Holy Knights live in separate palaces. Usually, they are staffed with 5 or 6 attendants. But Gran refused them all. He lives entirely alone in this vast empty palace. Ludi rests her chin in her hand. Her brow furrows. No matter how stubborn OA noble is, can one person really manage OA household alone? I bet it's OA, total disaster in there? He puffed out his chest. He put his hands on his hips. In that case, there's only one thing left to do. Cynics jingled the silver key in his hand. The clinking of the metal was sharp and clear. If that stubborn fellow won't answer, use this instead. He narrowed his eyes, wearing a gentle smile. This is the spare key to the palace managed by the Grand Priest. Now, go right in through the front door. Ludi gripped the silver key. Smile played on her lips. Since Lord Cynics is playing along too, I'll accept this with pleasure. She slid the key into the lock. The metal teeth clicked into place. First impressions are everything. I have to act as cheerful as possible. Ludi stood before the door. She took a deep breath. She threw open the heavy double doors. Pardon the intrusion? I'm the new caretaker. Ludi suddenly stopped in her tracks. The cowlick on her head wobbled. Her pupils constricted in confusion. What was that sound just now? Gran leaned against the doorframe. He shifted his weight forward. His white glove covered most of his face. The gaze peering through his fingers was icy. He gritted his teeth. A vein pulsed at his temple. I only came out because it was so noisy. By the look of it, you seem to have a death wish. Ludi froze where she stood. A chill ran down her spine. Cold sweat trickled down her cheek. Never mind getting him to like me. Am I really going to die, a second time? Gran crossed his arms over his chest. He looked down at her with a domineering gaze. His eyes were filled with loathing, as if he were looking at a piece of annoying junk. Ludi shook her head vigorously. She gripped the hem of her skirt. No, I can't give up now. She straightened her back. Her gaze became determined once more. Please allow me to reintroduce myself. I have been appointed as your attendant, Lord Gran. Gran stands before the towering doors. I don't need an attendant. His eyes are cold as ice. His pupils quiver with rage. Get lost and go home. Ludi presses her hands against her chest. She leans forward. Please, don't say that. I promise. It'll be of use to you. Gran turns his head away. His expression is clouded with annoyance. You're just in the way here. Hayes really got his guard up, hasn't he? Gran crosses his arms. He looks down at Ludi. How exactly did you get in here? Ludi stammers. Her eyes dart around shiftily. She pulls a silver key from her pocket. Her fingertips tremble slightly. The Grand Priest gave me this key. Gran suddenly reaches out. He snatches the key away. He slams the heavy door shut. Ludi stands frozen outside the door. She stares at the shut door. I can't believe he shut me out. A slight smile tugs at the corner of her mouth. Her gaze sharpens. This is going to be battle of attrition. Bring it on. Ludi clenches her fists. It'll show you what true power looks like. I'm the record holder for praying for 24 hours straight. I'm not giving up that easily. She starts appearing everywhere, trying to get on Gran's good side. Lord Gran, I brought some freshly picked apples. Would you like to try one? Gran is just about to head out. Hayes startled as Ludi suddenly crawls out from the bushes. His shoulders jump in a start. Lord Gran, where are you heading? Ludi waves her arms behind him. Good work today, as always. Are you sure you don't need an attendant? It's you again. Gran stops at the end of the long corridor. He leans against Owe's stone pillar. Wearing white gloves, he presses his hand to his throbbing forehead. What is the deal with that woman? Aang sits on the stone steps, clutching a bag of cookies. She pesters you once every 3 days, doesn't she? It's almost every day. Gran corrects him. Now that is some impressive persistence. N crunches on a cookie. The previous senses died of illness, right? Which means until a new senses is chosen, we are all free. Why don't you just hire her? Gran remained silent, his fingertips pressed against the space between his brows. With cookie crumbs clinging to the corner of his mouth, Hein's gaze gradually turns playful. Though there are also rumors that the senses was actually assassinated, Gran closes his eyes. I don't intend to let anyone get close to me. Aang pinches a cookie and pops it into his mouth, letting out a crisp crunch. Well, getting involved with someone like me wouldn't do her any good anyway. He licks the crumbs from his lips, his eyes drooping lazily. Gran is such a headache too. I bet that girl's persistence will win in the end. Gran retorts expressionlessly. That day will never come. The next day, the rain pours down in sheets. The rain lashes violently against the spires and green leaves. Gran pulls his cloak over his head and walks briskly through the courtyard. This rain really chose the worst time to fall. He stops dead in his tracks, his pupils shrinking in shock. A figure is standing at the far end of the path. Ludi stands all alone before the main gate, her arms wrapped tightly around her chest. Her thin clothes are already drenched through by the rain. Lord Gran? Ludi looks up, a radiant smile spreading across her face, as if the downpour around her doesn't even exist. Gran's hand, still clutching his cloak, freezes in midair. Have you been standing here in the rain this whole time? Ludi jogged over to him, clutching a red book tightly to his chest. Lord Gran, you're finally back. I received OA letter from the Grand Priest, and I had to deliver it to you in person. He pulled the envelope from his clothes, his hands shivering violently from the cold. The envelope had been not OA single drop of rain had touched it. Please, take it. Gran stood frozen in place, reflexively reaching out to take the letter. Oh, right. Ludi's fingers were pale and weak, his fingertips still trembling uncontrollably. Gran stared at the frozen hand. Oh, a flicker of shock in his eyes. The errand is finished. So he'll return to the dorms for the day. Ludi turned away, his body swaying as he hunched his shoulders. He let out a loud sneeze. He struggled to keep his balance, then turned back with a weary smile. He'll be back again tomorrow. Gran stood on the steps, watching Ludi's staggering figure walk away. He grit his teeth, his chest heaving. Wait. Gran reached out and grabbed Ludi by the shoulder. Through the soaked fabric, his palm felt the biting chill of his skin. Ludi turned back in surprise, his pupils trembling. Even I wouldn't drive away a woman as drenched as you? Gran avoided his gaze, his voice stiff and curt. Get inside. Ludi stood there dazed. Rainwater dripped from the tips of his hair. Gran pushed open the bathroom door and pointed to the white bathtub. Heat the water yourself. Use any towel you like. Once you're warm, leave immediately. Yes, Ludi murmured in response, his hands twisting together nervously. She looked around the magnificent bathroom. Mist drifted along the windows. I never imagined I'd de-enter the palace this way. Could it be that Gran actually has a gentle side? It'll really catch a cold if I stay like this. Ludi stood in the center of the washroom. Since he put it that way, it would be rude to refuse his kindness. She slipped off her soaked maid uniform. Standing before the mirror, her fingertips lightly traced the stigmata below her collarbone. It was the proof of being chosen as the same. Even if her face changed, this mark would stay with her for the rest of her life. It would never fade. To keep her identity hidden, she could never let anyone see this. She pulled up the slipping collar of her garment. By the way, Gran pulled back the curtain. He was holding Oa's set of folded clothes. Oh, change of clothes. Wear this for now. Ludi spun around abruptly. The thin bath towel barely managed to cover her chest. Her pupils shook violently from the shock. Gran froze where he stood. His gaze was locked onto her chest. His purple pupils constricted suddenly. A bead of cold sweat broke out on his brow. Ludi instinctively raised her hand to cover her heart. He saw it. Ludi let out a piercing scream. She recoiled backward suddenly. Her shoulders trembled uncontrollably. Gran quickly turned his head away. He raised a white-gloved hand to shield his eyes. A blush flared up on his cheeks. I'm sorry. He set the clothes down haphazardly on the table. He turned and bolted for the door. I'm leaving the clothes right here. Ludi clutched her chest tightly. Her heart was racing wildly. A faint light shimmered dimly from her chest. What should I do? If he saw the stigmata, my identity as the former senses will be totally exposed. Ludi walked barefoot down the corridor. Her hands tightly gripped her collar. Forget about befriending Gran. If he finds out, I'm just that former senses he despises the most. An image of Gran swinging his sword flashes through her mind. Breaking into his home without permission, and even using his bath. Ludi raises her hand to her forehead. A look of weariness settles between her brows. Just imagining the worst-case scenario gives me a headache. Maybe she's just too tired. She hasn't eaten since morning. And she got caught in the rain. She drags her heavy feet toward the window. Steady footsteps suddenly echo behind her. Hey, Ludi spins around with a start. Her eyes widen in surprise. Her jaw drops in shock. Why, yes. Gran is standing a few paces away. His gaze lingers on Ludi for a brief second, before quickly darting away. Gran rubs his forehead. His fingers run through his hair. About what happened earlier. I'm sorry. He lowers his gaze. He looks slightly awkward. It's been so long since I've had a visitor that I've forgotten how to be considerate. Ludi waves her hands frantically. She stiffens her posture, standing bolt upright. No, it sits. Quite all right. Also, I saw the mark on your chest. Ludi's pupils contract sharply. Her breath hitches instantly. He really did see it. Gran tilts his head slightly. His voice is low and somber. As a woman, to have such a conspicuous mark on you must be very difficult. Ludi stands there, stunned. Her hands tighten their grip on her collar. Gran raises his white-gloved hand and presses it against his lower lip. I want tell a soul. So, please, rest easy. Ludi stares at his profile. Her eyes are filled with pure astonishment. Could it be? He actually didn't recognize that as the stigmata. Instead, Hayes being considerate of me. That's impossible. Hayes, the Purple Reaper, after all. Ludi nervously twiddled her fingers. If you could keep this a secret, it would be huge help. Suddenly, Oh, a loud rumble erupted from her stomach. The dull sound echoed through the hallway. Ludi froze in her tracks. Her cheeks instantly flushed bright red. The air fell into OA, dead silence. Ludi bent over abruptly. She covered her face with both hands. I'm so sorry. This is so embarrassing. Gran's mouth hung open slightly. He looked away, bit hesitant. Are you hungry? Gran reached out and grabbed Ludi's wrist. He gave her a sharp tug. Come here. She was led into OA's spacious dining room. Ludi sat alone at the end of OA's long table. She looked around at the empty chairs. Does he really live in this massive house all by himself? This sense of loneliness reminded her of her days as the Ludi looked down at the tidy tabletop. Everything was spotless. Could it be that he even does the cleaning himself? All 4 holy knights come from prestigious families. Gran is no exception. Ludi gripped her spoon. She lowered her head, lost in thought. For the eldest son of such OA house, to handle chores personally, no matter how much he dislikes people, to isolate himself to this extent, there must be OA reason. Steady footsteps approached from OA distance. Sorry to keep you waiting. Gran was wearing OA black apron. He was carrying OA large tray. It's nothing fancy, but here, eat. Ludi looked up abruptly. Her eyes sparkled. She gasped in awe. She stared at the steaming stew in front of her, and the sliced bread. All of this, is it? Ludi looked up at him. Did you make all of this by yourself? Gran crossed his arms over his chest. His expression remained indifferent. Yeah. He lowered his gaze slightly. His lips were pressed into OA thin line. If I left it to someone else, who knows when they might try to slip in some poison. Ludi picked up the spoon. She scooped up a piece of meat from the stew. Thanks for the food. She put the food into her mouth. She chewed it carefully. Her eyes lit up instantly. This is delicious. It's really so good. Gran looked down at her. He watched the stray lock of hair swaying on her head. How should I put it? He arched an eyebrow. Oh, a hint of helplessness flickered in his eyes. She's just like, a puppy. Gran reached up and rubbed the back of his neck. His fingers ran through his hair irritably. Damn it, the thought of her being hungry made it impossible to just ignore her. I couldn't keep turning her away. This girl seems to be getting more and more foolish. Ludi was gulping down her food. Her cheeks were stuffed full. Her hair trembled with every movement. Gran stared at her profile. His expression grew a bit dazed. What am I thinking? It couldn't possibly be her. He slowly reached out his hand. His fingertips hovered just above the tips of her hair. But the resemblance is just too strong. Gran leaned down. His large palm cupped Ludi's chin. He forced her to look up. Let me take a closer look at your face. Ludi let him hold her chin. Her deep blue pupils constricted slightly. Lord Gran. Flustered, Ludi raised a hand to her cheek. Is there stew on my face? Gran quickly turned away. He folded his arms tightly. No, nothing. Ludi looked down at the empty plate. What was that feeling just now? He has an eccentric personality, but he has a considerate side too. Maybe I can start getting closer to him now. She suddenly freezes. Wait, with this level of housekeeping, does he really even need an attendant? Right now it feels like I'm the one being taken care of. Ludi shakes her head vigorously, shaking off the negative thoughts. I can't get discouraged like this. She pushes back her chair and stands up. She bows deeply to Gran across the long table. Thank you for the meal. I've caused you so much trouble today. I'm truly very sorry. She takes a deep breath. She gazes at Gran with burning determination. I want to repay your kindness. So next time Gran begins gathering the dishes, you don't need to cook. He keeps his back to Ludi. But I can leave the cleaning to you. And the laundry? Ludi's head snaps up. Does that mean? Gran gestures with one hand. I'm not officially hiring you yet. This is just a trial period. He turns his face slightly. His eyelids droop, hiding the emotions in his eyes. Starting tomorrow, come whenever you like. I'll be waiting for you. Ludi's face immediately lights up with a smile. Her cowlick perks up happily. Thank you so much. She turns around. She runs toward the door with a light step. Ludi raises her right hand high. I'll do my absolute best. She suddenly stumbles. She presses her palm to her forehead. Her vision begins to warp. Her body feels as if it's sinking into the deep sea. Everything is spinning. Ludi's eyes lose focus. Her pupils tremble violently. Now that she's finally relaxed, exhaustion hits her like a tidal wave. Her knees buckle. She collapses forward. Gran lunges forward. He reached out his arms. Hey! He suddenly grabbed Ludi by the waist, locking her tightly in his embrace. Gran looked down at the person in his arms. He really does look exactly like that person. The person in my memories, except for the hair color. If I look at his face more closely, Ludi leaned against Gran's chest, his pupils trembling slightly. Looking at him like this, Gran really does have a beautiful face. Back when I was he always wore such a terrifying expression. But now Ludi looked up. If only he could smile. Could he be the one I've been looking for? Gran tilted Ludi's chin up, his fingertips resting against the side of his neck. Cold scrutiny flickered deep within his violet eyes. Ludi held his breath. Their eyes met at close range. A sudden, urgent knocking came from the door. Gran let go abruptly, his expression becoming tense. A visitor. I almost forgot. They were supposed to come for the documents today. Ludi stood there awkwardly. Gran stopped, turning his head to whisper warning. Hey, Ludi hunched his shoulders in alarm. Yes, Gran pointed toward the end of the hall. Leave through the back door today. Your clothes are by the fireplace? Ludi agreed hurriedly, dashing toward the back exit. Sorry for the intrusion. I look forward to working with you starting tomorrow. Gran gave a low response. Right? Speaking of looking like someone, at first I thought it was the same. Her hair color was exactly like that person's. I kept seeing his shadow in her. He furrowed his brows. But her personality couldn't be more different. Gran's eyes turned cold. That's... Burns stood with his arms crossed over his chest. You're late. I've been waiting for exactly 7 minutes and 29 seconds. This is the time you've wasted. He pushed up his glasses. As Holy Knight, you should act with precision down to the second. Gran walked into the mansion's main hall, still as nagging as ever. He handed him a stack of documents. Burn reached out and took them. Burn's gaze remained fixed on the documents. By the way, have you already hired an attendant for the estate? Gran was taken aback. Huh. Burn continued to stare at the papers. Aang told me that you were finally planning to hire one? Gran gritted his teeth. That meddling bastard? Actually, I did just hire one. Burn adjusted his glasses. That is none of my business. More importantly, there is something else I need to ask you. Regarding the suspicions surrounding the Saintess assassination, Burn stared at him through his lenses. His eyes were cold. On the day she died, the person assigned as her guard was you, wasn't it? Gran's pupils suddenly constricted. Burn closed the documents in his hand. So, what exactly is the truth? It is common knowledge that the Purple Reaper utterly loathed the Saint. Leal held her in contempt, and you were no different. With your obsession with purity, you surely looked down on that dissolute sink. Burn let out a cold snort. There is no point in discussing this further. While it is only suspicion for now, both I and Burn truly have our doubts about you. Gran looked up. His purple pupils flickered in the shadows, radiating bone-chilling coldness. 3 weeks later, Cynic sat by the tea table. He picked up an exquisite porcelain cup. Ludi sat opposite him. Her hands were placed awkwardly on her knees. So, how is life as an attendant treating you? Ludi lowered her head and stared at the hem of her skirt. Her expression looked, a bit uneasy. I'm basically the one being fed. Cynics paused what he was doing. A look of confusion flashed in his eyes. Being fed, aren't you supposed to be the one taking care of him? Ludi looked up sharply. Gran's housekeeping skills are just incredible. Never mind that the place is spotless when Hay's done. His cooking is even more amazing. I can't find Owa's single thing left for me to clean. Her shoulders slumped dejectedly. As his caretaker, Owa, total failure. Cynics looked at her discouraged expression. Aren't the roles of master and servant, Owa bit backwards? He picked up his teacup once more. He took Owa's small sip. I never expected Gran to have Owa's side like that. Ludi let out Owa's sigh. I didn't expect it either. But you haven't forgotten about the investigation, right? Of course not. She held up 2 fingers. Regarding Gran, there are 2 suspicious points. First, every 3 days, at Owa fixed time, he leaves without fail. I suspect Hay's secretly meeting the mastermind behind the scenes. Cynics tilted his head. He watched Ludi as she sipped her tea. And the second point? Ludi set down her teacup. Her expression turned solemn. In Gran's room, there's Owa's small box he absolutely refuses to let me touch. It's locked up very tight, and it seems to hold something of great importance. A look of resolve appeared in Ludi's eyes. In thinking that my stolen pendant might be hidden inside it, Cynics lowered his gaze. While it's just speculation for now, it's certainly worth looking into. Ludi looked to the side. Tomorrow is the day Gran usually heads out. I plan to risk tailing him. Cynics raised his hand, which was wearing Owa. In that case, he pressed his palms together. Peppy, Owa, small pink beast, leaps out of thin air, letting out Owa crisp cry. Ludi spreads her hands in surprise. This is Owa Holy Spirit. Owa, powerful being born from Holy Spirit magic. Pepe lands in Ludi's palm, letting out a cheerful chirp. Ludi picks up the small pink beast. Her fingertips touch its soft fur. Rumor has it that Holy Spirits only form contracts with the Grand Priest. This is the first time I've ever seen one in person. Cynics narrows his eyes, showing Owa gratified smile. Pepe is very clever. He will surely be great help to you. Ludi holds Pepe up to her cheek. Excitement glimmers in her eyes. It's Owa. Pleasure to meet you, Pepe. Cynic's smile fades. His expression turns solemn. Please do not push yourself too hard. Be careful with everything. The sunset dies, the sky crimson. Gran dons Oe black cloak and steps out of the manor gates. He gazes into the distance with Oe grim expression. Ludi hides behind Oe's stone pillar. She pulls down the brim of her hat, revealing only her sharp, watchful eyes. All right, let's begin. Operation Tailing starts now. Pepe perches on her shoulder, Hayes wearing Oe matching mini detective hat on his head, while tailing Gran. I must piece together the doubts regarding the real killer. There are indeed many suspicious things about Gran. That sealed wooden box, and those irregular outings of his. Ludi's pupils tremble slightly. Her eyes are filled with coldness. The most crucial point is, on the day I died, Gran was my personal guard. During the prayer ceremony, he should have been stationed outside the sanctuary, but by the time Cynics arrived at the scene, the guard had already vanished. Pepe tilts his head and lets out a cry. Ludi pulls her hat lower. If Gran is the real killer, he could have fled the scene after the murder. It would have been easy for him to fabricate an excuse after the fact. Ludi extends her index finger, gently tapping the tip of Pepe's nose. But what if he isn't the killer? No matter how much Gran despised me as he isn't like those lazy holy knights. Hayes not the type to neglect his duty. Ludi rests her chin in her hand. After becoming Gran's attendant, I've realized just how incredibly serious he is about his work. Maybe he had a reason he absolutely had to leave that day. And someone took my life in the window of time he was gone. He refuses to tell anyone where he was that day, which only makes the suspicion even heavier. Ludi places her hand over her heart. In my current position, I really don't want Gran to be the real culprit. The golden pie gives off Oe warm steam. Gran carries Oe tray. Ludi peeks her head out from behind him. Her mouth hangs open in amazement. Maybe it's because I feel like we've grown closer. Ludi clutches the cloak at her chest. Her fingertips tremble slightly. I have to stay calm. I can't let my personal feelings cloud my judgment. Gran pushes open the heavy wooden door. The brass bell on the door rings clearly. He bows his head as he enters the building. Ludi hides at Oe corner. Lord Gran went into the shop. It's Oe flower shop. Oe wooden sign stands beside Oe cluster of flowers. Carts are overflowing with colorful blooms. Gran carries Oe bouquet of blue and white flowers. As he slowly exits the shop, Ludi hides behind the wall. She peeks out. Why is he buying flowers? That bouquet suits him damn well. Where is he planning to go? Stone crosses stand atop the tombs. Rows of coffins lie still in the mist. Holding the blue and white bouquet, Gran walks through the tombstones. His expression is solemn. This is a cemetery belonging to the temple. Ludi hides behind Oe's stone pillar. She watches his retreating figure. What is he doing here? Gran stopped in his tracks. He stood before Oe tombstone. He took the bouquet and placed it gently on the cold stone slab. Ludi's eyes flew open. That grave? It's Ludi. Flora. That's my grave. Ludi hid behind Oe's stone pillar. Her body went rigid. What on earth does this mean? Gran stood before the grave. He pressed his right hand to his chest. He bowed his head in silent mourning. Why? Would he come to pay respects to Oe's senses he was supposed to hate? Gran lowered his gaze. His purple eyes were hidden in the shadows of his hair. His expression was filled with sorrow. Hey, Ludi jumped in surprise. Come out. Did you think I hadn't noticed you? He turned his body. His right hand gripped the hilt of the sword at his waist. He scanned the stone pillar with an icy gaze. Come out. Ludi shuffled out from behind the stone pillar. Gran turned around abruptly. His eyes were filled with shock. You. Why is it you? Ludi bowed repeatedly. I am so sorry. I was just worried about where you were going. After all, I am your attendant. That was Oe's pathetic excuse. She lowered her head and bit her lip. Cold sweat beaded on her forehead. Gran let go of the sword hilt. He let out Oe's long sigh of relief. I thought you were another assassin sent by my stepmother. Ludi looked up. Her pupils dilated in surprise. An assassin, Gran put Oe's hand on his hip. His expression returned to its usual coldness. Thinking about it now, your killing intent is far too weak. Ludi straightened her back. She tried to break the awkward silence. Anyway, Ludi pressed her fingertips to her chest. Her eyes were full of confusion. Why did you come to pay respects to the former I thought you hated her. The senses was indeed timid and annoying, gloomy and difficult to get along with. Ludi clenched her fists. The corner of her mouth twitched slightly. Wow, that's Oe's ruthless insult. Gran turned his face away. Strands of his hair fluttered in the wind, but she died under my watch. Whether it was Oe, sudden illness, or the rumored assassination, the responsibility lies with me. I abandoned my post. I failed to notice anything unusual. Ludi stood frozen in place. Her pupils constricted slightly. Her breath hitched. So you feel guilty about the Saintess' death? And that's why you keep coming here to offer flowers? Gran closed his eyes. He gave Oe a slight nod. Yeah, This won't atone for my sins, but at least until the mourning period ends, I will continue to come. Haze full of regret. He regrets failing to protect me as my guard. There isn't a hint of a lie in his voice. I don't think Lord Gran is the killer. Ludi suddenly stepped forward. Her leather shoes clicked against the stone tiles, making a hurried sound. Then, for someone as responsible as you, why? She rushed up behind Gran. She gripped his sleeve tightly with both hands. Why did you leave the Saintess side while on duty? This has been haunting me. I want to know everything about you, Lord Gran. Gran looked down at her. His pupils narrowed in surprise. What? Ludi gripped his clothes with all her might. Please, tell me. Gran looked troubled. Drop of cold sweat rolled down his temple. That's because suddenly, a cold glint flashed from the shadows. Oh, a dagger shot through the air. Gran whipped his head around. His purple eyes instantly focused. Watch out. 3 throwing knives fanned out, cutting through the air. With a sharp whistling sound, Ludi stood frozen in shock. Her body went rigid. What? Gran suddenly lunged to the side. With a sweep of his long arm, he pulled Ludi into his arms. Using his back to shield her from the incoming flash of cold steel, the sharp blade pierced through the fabric and sank deep into his flesh. Blood instantly splattered onto the ground. Gran grit his teeth, cold sweat beading on his forehead. A muffled groan escaped his throat. Lord Gran, she cried out in a panicked voice. Her eyes filled with absolute horror. Ludi let out a frantic scream. Lord Gran. Gran let out a pained grunt. The dagger was buried deep in his shoulder. He dropped to one knee, his right hand clutching the wound tightly. Ludi stayed close behind him, her hands trembling as she supported his back. An assassin wearing a green top hat approached, fiddling with another dagger in his hand. The blade was coated in a lethal poison. You're actually still conscious, as expected of the Purple Reaper. He grit his teeth, his gaze cold and piercing. I have a natural resistance to poison. Did my stepmother send you? The assassin stopped in his tracks. A mocking smirk playing on his lips. Something like that? Gran lowered his head and let out a cold laugh, his hair shadowing his eyes. Ha! That woman really never learns. Ludi's pupils trembled. His stepmother. This means Gran is being hunted by his own family. So this is an internal power struggle within the House of Lilac. She bit her lower lip. But more importantly, Gran was late because he ran into an assassin, and he even got hurt trying to protect me. Go. Get out of here. Ludi stood frozen in place, her expression filled with shock. What? Gran turned his head, his breathing coming in heavy gasps. Leave me here and go. The assassin thinks Hayes already won. He thinks I'm completely off my guard. Cold sweat beads on his forehead. His eyes are filled with grim resolve. I can't let you get dragged into my mess. Get out of here. The assassin's lips curl into a smirk. My employer's orders were to kill him no matter what. Don't take it personally. He raises the bloodstained dagger and closes in on Gran. Gran is down on one knee. His purple eyes lose focus from the agonizing pain. Cold sweat rolls down his cheek. Ludi's eyes widen in horror. Her pupils tremble violently. She suddenly lunges to her feet. She throws herself in front of Gran. She spreads her arms wide to shield him. Hey! Gran cries out, his voice cracking. He looks up at the figure standing before him. His face is a mask of pure shock. I'm not going to run away, Ludi retorts loudly. If I were to abandon my master just to save my own skin, then I would be utterly unfit to be an attendant. Gran is frozen where he is. His lips part slightly. He stares blankly at Ludi. The assassin lets out a scoff. A woman actually trying to fight back. How noble almost moved. He tightens his grip on the dagger. He advances, step by step. Cold sweat breaks out on Ludi's forehead. At this rate, we're both going to die. What should I do? The assassin is clearly underestimating me. He thinks I'm completely defenseless. Ludi quietly shifts her feet. I just need one opening. Suddenly, a stone comes flying out of nowhere. It strikes the assassin with pinpoint accuracy. A sharp clack echoes as it hits his top hat. The assassin flinches, jerking his head back. Ow. What the hell was that? He spins around in shock, searching the area. Peppy flaps his wings and dives straight down. He is still clutching a stone in his paws. He lets out a high-pitched shriek. Ludi's eyes go wide. She gasps in disbelief. Pepe, the assassin whipped his head around. Damn it. Who's there? Come out right now. Those without divine power cannot see holy spirits. Ludi picks up the dagger from the ground. Nice job. Peppy, he slams his entire body into the assassin's arms. He locks onto the man's waist with all his might. Using the momentum, he knocks the man over. Crash. The two of them fall heavily onto the stone floor. Ludi flips over and pins the assassin down, straddling his chest. She grips the dagger in her right hand, bringing it close to the man. The assassin's eyes widen. Cold sweat trickles down his temple. This woman. Ludi's gaze is icy. OA mocking smirk plays on her lips. You got careless. This blade is coated with OA lethal poison, isn't it? The assassin lets out OA sneer. His eyes are full of contempt. You brat? Do you really think you have the guts to stab me? Ludi bursts into laughter. I'm someone who has already died once. My resolve is on OA completely different level than yours. She swings her arm down violently. The dagger slices through the air. Ha! Ludi remains expressionless. Her eyes are cold as ice. When you're actually ready to die, then come back and find me. The assassin lets out a muffled grunt. White foam begins to spill from his mouth. Ludi rushes toward the fallen man. Lord Gran, are you okay? She kneels on the ground. She cradles Gran's head. The toxin is spreading. I have to neutralize the poison immediately. If only I still had my divine power, I could heal him in an instant. The sacred spirit tree protects this land. The saintess' duty is to purge dark energy. The power of purification can remove all impurities. It works just as well on curses and poisons. Ludi knits her brows. But purification requires the consumption of holy power, and I've already lost that power. Besides, in such a critical moment, I'm afraid that's the only method that will work. Peppy tilted its head, letting out a clear chirp. Ludi turned her head, staring at the Holy Spirit beside her. Peppy, this is it. Perhaps I can borrow the Holy Spirit's divine power. A spark of light flashed in her eyes. Lend me your power once more, please. Peppy closed its eyes. Its entire body burst with dazzling white light. The light enveloped Ludi's palms. Warm sensation spread throughout her body. Wow. This feeling, it's just like back when I was Normally, just holding their hand would be enough. She looked down at the unconscious Gran. Even in the past, I only ever needed to go that far. But here, I need deeper contact. The fastest way is mouth. Ludi suddenly covered her mouth. Her cheeks instantly turned crimson. They used to call me shameless senses. But this is actually my first time. I can't worry about that now. This is basically just mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Ludi clenched her fists. Saving life comes first. She reached out both hands, firmly cupping Gran's face. I still have so many things to ask him. Ludi leaned down, closing her eyes. You absolutely cannot die. I lived alone with my commoner mother. Our lives were impoverished. It was just the two of us. The moment my mother passed away from illness, Gran lay by the bedside wailing loudly, calling out name that would never respond again. Heavy footsteps approached. Leather shoes stepped on the wooden floor, making cold, dull thud. Gran stopped crying. He turned his head sharply, tear tracks still staining his face. An uninvited guest. People from House Lilac appeared. They were there to take me away. My mother had once been maid at the Duke's estate. She was also the Duke's mistress. On her deathbed, she begged my father to take me in, but there was no place for me in the Duke's mansion. The Duchess swung her hand violently. Heavy slap landed across Gran's face. You low-born bastard. Gran's head snapped to the side from the blow. He let out a muffled groan. His body lost its balance. He collapsed onto the ground. The Duchess looked down at him with contempt. I heard you stole my son's candy. This is exactly why I loathe a thief who forgets his place. I didn't steal any candy, Gran retorted, propping himself up on the floor. His eyes were filled with defiance. The Duchess's biological son hid behind her skirts. Smug, malicious grin played on his lips. He let out a contemptuous snicker. It was another Gran lowered his gaze. The red mark on his cheek burned with stinging pain. Everyone in this house was rotten to the core. My father took me in with cold indifference and proceeded to ignore me entirely. My stepmother viewed me as a thorn in her side. Her son was just as despicable. Gran's face was always covered in fresh wounds. The Duchess flicked her folding fan open. She pointed at Gran and barked at the staff. Servants, lock this sewer rat in the shed. Gran curled up in a dark corner of the wooden shed. Looks like ill missed my horsemanship lesson again. Although my father was cold, he was a thorough utilitarian. He arranged for me to receive basic noble education simply because he valued practical utility. My father declared that the position of heir belonged to the strong, whether it was me or my despicable half-brother. The reason my half-brother constantly framed me was likely because he feared I would seize the title of househead. Gran lashed out with his right leg. He kicked over a nearby wooden bucket with a violent thud. To hell with all of this. The wooden bucket rolled across the ground, making a dull thudding sound. He turned around and looked toward the entrance. No one's coming by before nightfall anyway. No one will even think of me until tomorrow. Outside the shed, pink sunset filled the sky. Tree shadows swaying in the gentle breeze. Appearing exceptionally tranquil, Gran lay flat on his back on the grass, limbs sprawled out. I can finally catch my breath. If I could just run away like this, and live on my own, how much easier would it be? But he knew all too well that he simply didn't have the ability to survive on his own. The sunset turned the treetops, a fiery red. Gran stared blankly at the sky, a sense of confusion in his eyes. "Hey!" a voice called from above. Gran let out a startled cry. Ludi leaned down, a basket filled with purple flowers on her arm. "Do you live around here?" She leaned closer to Gran's face, her eyes full of concern. "Your face is hurt. Are you okay?" Gran froze on the spot, stammering in response. "Yeah. Oh, a girl from town. She seems completely harmless." "Wait, a second," Ludi said, with a brilliant smile. "I have something for you." She rummaged through her basket, then reached out and held her hand in front of Gran. "Here, a bouquet of flowers." Gran looked down at the cluster of purple flowers in his arms, his expression hesitant. Ludi explained with a smile. "The nectar from these flowers can help with the pain. Besides, they're pretty, just like your eyes. Right?" Gran sat there, stunned. A blush flushing his cheeks, his pupils trembling slightly. Ludi waved her hand, turning to leave. "Well, goodbye then." "Wait, why did I stop her? I couldn't reveal my identity. I couldn't even say my own name. So how could I possibly ask for his—" Gran stood up abruptly. He shouted at Ludi's receding back. "Will you come back here again? If we can meet again, please let me repay you for these flowers." Ludi stopped in her tracks. She turned back with a radiant smile. "I come here to pick flowers at this time every week." She waved her slender arm. "Goodbye." Gran stood there, rooted to the spot, staring at the girl's back as she walked away. "Meeting that girl changed my suffocating life." The grassy slope at dusk was in full bloom. Under the glow of the setting sun, we shared several brief conversations. Gran scratched the back of his head, looking a bit flustered. "Hey, we meet again." Without exchanging names or revealing our identities, we became secret friends. Ludi gently placed the flower-crowned shed woven onto Gran's head. "This really suits you." Gran looked down, avoiding her gaze. "No, probably. It doesn't suit me at all." Ludi took Gran's wrist, wrapping a white bandage around his wound, layer by layer. "It's your arm this time, huh? Did you really just trip and fall?" Gran avoided her gaze, mumbling his response. "I am just clumsy, that's all." Her bright, cheerful spirit saved me countless times. In those days, I wasn't Gran Lilac. I was no one at all. Ludi and Gran lay side by side on the grass, their hands tightly intertwined. Only when I was with her did I feel truly alive. But losing everything often takes only a single moment. Gran was suddenly kicked to the ground. His brother stepped on his back, roaring down at him. "You bastard! How dare you sneak out by yourself? You really are a filthy rat." His brother gritted his teeth, his eyes brimming with loathing. Gran let out a muffled groan. As he was pinned firmly underfoot, they must have found that opening. "Damn it. I've already told Mother." His brother raised his foot and kicked him hard in the stomach again. "Don't even dream of being free again?" The heavy thud of the impact echoed through the room. Gran curled up on the floor, letting out a pained whimper. His brother snorted coldly, straightened his collar, and left without a backward glance. With his cheek pressed against the cold floor, Gran's pupils began to lose focus. His vision grew blurry. "I won't be able to see her anymore. We had a promise. Next time we met, she was going to teach me how to weave flower wreaths." Gran squeezed his eyes shut. "Living such a miserable existence? What is the point of it all? The reason you're in such a pathetic state is because you're far too weak." Duke Lilac looked down at the boy on the ground, his gaze ice cold. "If you don't want anything else to be taken from you, then seize power. Once you become the heir to the dukedom, you can have everything you desire." Gran's eyes snapped open, his pupils trembling. "Everything I desire." A hand flickered in his mind, Ludi gripping his hand tightly. The warmth coming from her fingertips was the only truth he longed to hold on to. "I believe you have potential." The Duke stood with his back to the boy, his cloak snapping in the cold wind. "Climb up using your own strength." Gran's fingers suddenly balled into a fist, his nails digging deep into the dirt. "I will. To achieve a status and power that will command everyone's respect, as long as I can seize the position of the head of the house, I'll finally be able to go see him properly. If I do that, they will only hate me more. They might even want me dead. But even so." Gran snaps his eyes open. Purple fire burns within his eyes. "I will never look back. I have to survive no matter what, just so I can see him again. And when that moment of reunion finally comes, I will introduce myself to him properly. So, could you tell me your name first?" Gran reaches out toward the moon. His fingertips seem to pierce the night, reaching to grasp that elusive light and shadow. He snaps his eyes open. Gran sits up in bed. The blankets slide down to his waist. He looks around at the unfamiliar room. Where is this? So, it was just a dream. A dream about the past. What on earth happened to me? He feels a weight on his left hand. Slowly, his gaze shifts downward, toward the edge of the bed. Ludi is fast asleep, resting her head on the bedside. Her blonde hair is draped over her arms. Her fingers are tightly interlaced with his. Gran's pupils contract. His heart pounds against his chest. Your Ludi's eyelashes flutter. She lets out Oa's soft, hazy murmur. Slowly, she opens her eyes. Gran props himself up, looking down at her. Ludi suddenly looks up. Lord Gran, you're finally awake. Gran looks around, confusion lingering in his eyes. Where am I? Ludi quickly stands up and leans closer. She looks deeply concerned. You're in the temple's infirmary. Gran's brow furrows slightly. Memories slowly begin to trickle back. What about the assassin? What happened after that? Ludi held up her index finger. After that, I called for help. Ludi leaned toward the bed. That assassin? I just got lucky. My surprise attack worked. I guess so. Gran turned his head away. His eyes were filled with sus. Piscine, so you were the one who finished them off? Just you, Ludi lowered her head. Her shoulders slumped slightly. She let out a guilty sigh. Gran raised his hand. To cover his mouth and nose, his shoulders began to tremble. FFT, he suddenly threw his head back. He burst out laughing. Ha ha ha. You really are an interesting character. Ludi stood there, stunned. Her cheeks flushed. The stray hair on her head bobbed. Gran tapped his lower lip with his fingertip. Oh, a smile played on his lips. By the way, I haven't asked for your name yet. Ludi's eyes widened. She let out a small cry. What? You didn't know until now? Gran spread his hands, looking completely unfazed. It's not like not having a name kept us from talking. Ludi looked down. She twisted her fingers together. She brushed Oa's strand of hair behind her ear. My name is Lulu. Please, just call me that. Gran gazed at her. Lulu. That's a lovely name. Gran leaned back against the headboard. This isn't the first time my stepmother sent assassins. As the son of a mistress, an a potential threat to the family's succession. In their way. She's even tried to poison my food. If I were the only one being targeted, I wouldn't have cared. Gran drew his sword, standing guard in front of the carriage. My subordinates got dragged into it too. No matter what happens, the power of the ducal house will cover it all up. Gran lowered his gaze. My father believes that. As long as I am dead, everything will be over. That is why he turns a blind eye to my stepmother's actions. Ludi covered her mouth. Her eyes were filled with shock. That's horrible. So this is why Gran distances himself from everyone. He doesn't want anyone else to get caught up in his mess. Ludi gazed at Gran, her pupils trembling slightly. Gran leaned against the headboard. His expression.com. He's actually quite a gentle person, isn't he? Gran's gaze suddenly turned sharp. Once one officially inherit the title of househead, I won't let him have his way anymore. Ludi folded her hands over her chest and lowered her eyes. I still can't believe it. That Hayes the one who killed me. I must confirm my final doubt. Ludi looked up. Meeting Gran's eyes, by the way, that small box you said I must never touch? What exactly is inside it? Gran suddenly stiffened. He pressed his fingers to his lips, his gaze beginning to waver. That? There's a pressed flower bookmark inside. It was a treasure from his childhood. A young Gran sits at a desk, opening a heavy book. A bookmark adorned with a small purple flower slips out. Ludi folded her hands over her chest, her pupils trembling. A pressed flower. Bookmark. Could it be the flower from my memory? Judging by his expression, it doesn't seem like Hayes lying. Gran covered half of his face, the tips of his ears flushing red. She had long, pale purple hair, and once said, the color of those flowers is exactly like my eyes. I heard the late senses had the same hair color. Her commoner birth was a liability. I once hoped he was Celia, but their personalities are completely different. Looking at him is like looking at my former weak self. Gran's brow furrowed. Irritation welled up inside him. That's why I gave him the cold shoulder in every way. Thinking back on it now, I was simply taking my frustration out on him. Gran pressed a hand to his forehead. He closed his eyes. I was the one with the unrealistic expectations, yet I took it out on him. Gran leaned forward. He clasped the back of his head with both hands. I've been terrible. Ludi's hair color is also completely different. No matter how similar the appearance or personality, I shouldn't harbor those expectations anymore. Gran leaned closer to her face. You still have something you want to ask, don't you? Ludi's shoulders jerked up. She clenched her hands tightly against her chest. The cowlick on her head twitched. Before the assassin's attack, why would someone as responsible as you leave the Saintess side while on duty? Ludi took a deep breath. She replied loudly, Yes, please tell me. The reason I left the Saint's side that day was, there was a knock at the door. Ludi whipped around. Is Lord Gran awake? The doctor pushed open the door and entered. I need to perform, a quick checkup. Ludi slapped her hand to her forehead. Gran had only just recovered. I'm sorry for making you talk so much right after waking up. Head out now. Ludi lifted the hem of her skirt. She ran toward the door. She turned back and waved. Well, talk later. Gran reached out his hand. Before he could even speak, the doctor opened his medical bag. He certainly is. Lively child. Isn't that right? Gran replied with a helpless sigh. Regardless, you seem to be doing well. That's what matters most. The doctor leaned down to inspect the wound. The only symptom right now is this puncture wound. Given your rate of recovery, you'll be completely healed in no time. Gran lowered his eyes. His expression was solemn. Just a puncture wound. I should have been riddled with lethal poison. I'm still so confused. There are parts of my memory I can't recall. The doctor placed a hand on his wrist. Your pulse is a bit fast. Gran remained silent, head bowed. He was lost in thought. Gran bit his knuckle. Damn it, Lulu. Ludi walked along the garden path. She let out a long sigh of relief. I didn't let anything slip in front of Gran just now, did I? Saving his life was the priority. But that was still far too reckless. Ludi leaned down, her lips pressed against Gran's. It was just Ludi covered her burning cheeks. She shook her head frantically. The way Gran looked, he looked exactly like that boy. I didn't even know his name. One day he just vanished, and he never appeared again. Ludi stood beneath the high walls of the temple. She gazed up at the sky. Later, I became the same. That was the last time we ever met. Ludi's foot slipped. Her heel struck a hard object. It made a sharp, clinking sound. Ludi lost her balance. She pitched forward. Ow. Ludi rubbed the back of her head. Her brow was tightly furrowed. That hurts. Who leaves junk lying around in a place like this? Aang looked up. He caught her and held her steady. This is hardly junk, you know? Ludi froze on the spot. Her pupils trembled slightly. This man is one of the 4 holy knights. Aang looked down at her. His gaze lazy. You're Aang's born into prestigious knightly family. He is the youngest holy knight in history, and the kingdom's strongest genius swordsman. Yet Hayes, an eccentric problem child, and hopelessly lazy man. Cold sweat beaded on Ludi's forehead, her lips twitching. He really is problem child in every sense of the word. Back when I was still the same, he caused me no end of trouble. Aang stared down at Ludi in his arms. A hint of suspicion in his eyes. You. Aang leaned closer to her face, examining her closely. I feel like I've seen you somewhere before. Your Gran's attendant, right? Ludi's body stiffened. Drop of cold sweat rolling down her temple. Yais. Aang, let go of her. You're heavy. Get off of me. Ludi scrambled to her feet, clutching the hem of her skirt. I am terribly sorry, he said. I'm heavy. Is it because Gran's cooking is so delicious that I've actually gained weight? Aang brushed the dust off his uniform. Becoming an attendant through sheer persistence is quite impressive. I could never handle such a thankless chore. You seem to be trying so hard to live your life, but it all seems utterly pointless, doesn't it? Ludi stood there, stunned. So that's the kind of person he is, because his talent is so immense. He inadvertently looks down on everyone else. There's probably no one around him who dares to talk back. Before I died, I would have just accepted all of this in silence. But Ludi looked Aang straight in the eye, her gaze becoming resolute. What exactly is wrong with trying your best to live? Aang stopped in his tracks. He turned his head away. We don't know when we'll die. After all, we're only human. Those who are innocently killed never have any warning. Ludi clenched her fists tight. Her knuckles turned white from the force. If that's the case, then I have even more reason to give it my all. Ludi looked up. She looked Aang straight in the eye, she declared loudly. In going to live a life that I'll never regret? Aang remained silent. He watched the girl in front of him quietly. Ludi suddenly snapped back to reality. She realized she'd lost her cool. Oh no. What did I just say? I actually just talked back to him. Her long bottled-up resentment had completely erupted. She waved her hands frantically. A forced smile appeared on her face. Just kidding. Forgive me, Ludi, turned and bolted. Her skirt billowed in the air. I'll be going now. Aang suddenly reached out. He caught Ludi's wrist with perfect precision. Wait, Ludi stopped. She looked back, her eyes full of confusion. Aang leaned down. He leaned in close to her ear. You're a bit strange. Ludi froze in place. Her pupils wavered. Strange. Aang lowered his eyes. He looked at Ludi's face. I can't quite describe the feeling, but I think I'd like to talk to you more. Aang leaned in even closer. Their noses were nearly touching. Is this what they call curiosity? Ludi held her breath. OA blush spread across her cheeks. Wait, hold on. Your face is too close. Heavy footsteps resounded in the corridor. Hey. Gran reached out and grabbed Hein's shoulder. What are you doing to my attendant? Ludi spun around suddenly. Her eyes widened. Lord Gran, the doctor said I could return to the villa now. While walking down the long corridor, he happens upon Lulu being pestered. I wasn't harassing her. Aang says, OA, mocking smirk playing on his lips. You were the one who refused to let her be your caretaker at first. But now you seem quite anxious. Gran is left speechless. He stands there, unable to offer OA rebuttal. Aang spreads his hands. His expression returns to its usual laziness. What OA drag? Im heading out first? Aang stops in his tracks. He looks back and waves OA hand. See you next time. Gran watches the direction in which Aang disappeared. His brow furrows slightly. It's truly rare. To think Aang would actually care about someone else? Gran leans down toward her. Are you all right? Ludi hunches her shoulders. OA's stiff smile is fixed on her face. I am fine. He was just chatting with me for OA bit. Ludi lowers her gaze. Her pupils tremble slightly. In that moment just now, he could have killed me at any time. He is one of the suspects. I absolutely cannot let my guard down. Sunlight spills across the spires of the villa. The shadows of the trees sway. Gran walks along the forest path. Ludi carries OA heavy leather suitcase. Following closely behind him, Gran comes to OA halt. He turns his head. You're questioning my reason for leaving the Saintess side? I was on guard duty at the time. But then I heard OA scream. Ludi stops in her tracks. Her pupils quiver. OA scream. Gran's gaze turns somber. It was the voice of OA young woman. Crying for help? I hesitated. But I couldn't just stand by and do nothing, so I ran toward the sound. I intended to head back immediately after saving the person. Someone dressed as OA maid was sitting on the ground. Her body was trembling. It was obvious that she had argued with her lover. The lover had intruded into the temple. After they argued, he almost attacked her. But when I showed up, he ran away. Ludi followed closely behind Gran. Her expression was anxious. Then, what did that woman say afterward? Gran's expression was grave. She begged me not to say a word. She said she'd be fired if she caused any trouble. Ludi was lost in thought. So that's why Lord Gran has kept silent all this time. His behavior was perfectly reasonable. I can also understand that woman's situation. But right at that time, I was murdered. This seemingly deliberate timing is very suspicious. If that woman was the mastermind, she predicted Gran's personality, staged OA farce, and used it as OA diversion, all to get rid of me. Bloodstains spread through her mind. I just remembered another thing. Gran stopped walking. He turned his head. Ludi looked up. What is it? Now that I think back, that woman wasn't OA maid. I'm certain she was an attendant. One of Hein's. Ludi froze in place. Her pupils constricted violently. Could it be that Cynics held OA comb? His fingertips ran through her hair. His movements were gentle. Ludi sat on OA round stool, holding Pepe in her arms. I only came here to report on my work. Why are you helping me comb my hair? Cynics had OA smile in his eyes. I've heard that the strongest divine power resides in the hair. After your hair color changed, I had you cut it short. I still regret it to this day. At the very least, let me take care of your hair now. Ludi shrank back into her shoulders. Her eyes were flustered. I understand. Cynics gazed at the strands of hair. But to think they've grown this much? In such OA's short amount of time? People always grow up so fast when they're young. Ludi broke into OA's smile. You really sound like a mother. A bead of sweat appeared on Cynics' temple. Who are you calling mother? Pepe lay in Ludi's arms, ears twitching slightly, and let out OA's soft huff. Cynics lowered his gaze. I see. I have OA clear understanding of the situation now. Based on your assessment, Gran isn't the true culprit. He's been cleared of all suspicion. Aang has become the next target of the investigation. He is the new suspect. Sweat beaded on Ludi's forehead, her gaze turning heavy. Yes, that woman who assisted the mastermind is most likely Hein's caretaker. Hay's the one in the best position to give her orders. Cynics gripped the strands of hair tightly, his expression cold and stern. I will personally confirm that woman's identity. We need to make some arrangements. Have you transferred away from Gran? To serve as Hein's attendant. Ludi's pupils quivered slightly. Her fingertips stiffened. I understand. This meant she would no longer need to stay by Gran's side. But partings always brought OA sense of loneliness. Ludi looked down and rubbed Pepe's ears. How was she supposed to tell Gran? Wait, even without her, he would probably get along just fine. After all, his domestic skills are impeccable. Ludi's eyes widened in shock. He might even feel like it's OA relief. That thought is actually quite OA blow. Cynic stood behind Ludi, placing OA's hand on her shoulder, his face full of concern. Is something the matter? Ludi waved it off. Oh, a strained smile tugged at her lips. I'm fine. Now is not the time to be feeling lonely. I have already made up my mind. I will personally catch the true culprit who murdered me. Oh, a week flew by in an instant. Ludi pushed open the heavy door and peered inside. Lord Gran, excuse the intrusion. She stepped into the room, her shoes clicking softly on the wooden floor. As it turned out, a whole week had passed, and I still haven't been able to tell Gran about my transfer. Lord Sinix has already notified Ing. A delightful aroma wafted past. Ludi stopped in her tracks, her nose twitching slightly. What a wonderful smell. Gran stood before the stove, holding a pan in one hand and a ladle in the other to taste the food. Steam rose up before him. He turned his head, a gentle look in his eyes. Lulu, you're here. You've changed your hairstyle. Ludi reached up to touch her temples, responding somewhat awkwardly. Yes, I wanted to change my look for a bit. Lord Sinix is quite particular about such things. An attendant's appearance is also important. The corners of Gran's mouth turned up slightly. He gazed at Ludi. I think it suits you. Ludi's cheeks flushed red, her pupils trembling. Gran turned back and continued tending to the pots on the stove. Anyway, the timing is perfect. I just finished the preparations. Ludi stood rooted to the spot. Finished the preparations. A long table was spread with a white tablecloth. The roast chicken was a glistening golden brown, garnished with lemons and red berries, giving off curls of steam. Slices of seared meat were neatly arranged, drizzled with a rich sauce, and accompanied by cubes of cheese. The fragrance filled the room. Ludi's mouth dropped open, looking at the table full of sumptuous dishes. Wow, this is incredible. You really put a lot of thought into this. Did something good happen? Gran rested a hand on the back of his neck. There was a gentleness in his expression. I haven't had the chance to properly apologize or thank you yet. I'm sorry for dragging you into my private business, and thank you for helping me. Ludi stood frozen in place. Her pupils wavered slightly. Oh, well. Please, don't give it another thought. Ludi gave a deep bow. Her voice was hurried. I understand that you were in a difficult position at the time. Lord Gran. Gran turned around. His expression became serious. That is exactly what I wanted to talk to you about. It seems that Assassin has already reported back to my stepmother. He told her he failed to ambush me. A man knelt on the ground. He bowed his head, trembling. The stepmother sat in a high-backed chair. She gently waved a folding fan in her hand. Her gaze was ice-cold. So, Gran Lilac already has a strongest bodyguard by his side? Ludi's hands froze in midair. Her pupils suddenly constricted. The strongest bodyguard. Cold sweat beaded on her temple. Her expression went blank. You don't mean me, do you? Why would he say something like that? Gran crossed his arms over his chest. He looked indifferent. He probably couldn't bring himself to admit that he was defeated by a woman. My stepmother seems to have raised her guard. There shouldn't be a second attack for a while. Ludi placed a hand over her heart. She let out a long sigh of relief. That's a relief. Gran watched her. His gaze was soft. This is all thanks to you. Lulu, Gran, reached out a hand toward Ludi. I prepared all of this for you. Please, eat your fill. Ludi looked up. Her cheeks are flushed red. She gazes at the man before her. Gran leans his hands on the edge of the table. His voice is low. Besides, it's no longer dangerous for you to stay by my side. So, from now on, are you willing to continue being my attendant? Ludi's breath hitches. Her pupils tremble uncontrollably. Oh, what should I do? Gran needs me more than I imagined. That makes me so happy. But Gran lowers his head slightly. His hair shadows his eyes. Now would be the perfect time to request a change of attendance. I'm well aware of that. But Ludi snaps her head up. She breaks the silence. Please wait a moment. I just remembered I left something back at the Grand Temple. May I go back and get it first? Gran stands there, stunned. Sure. Ludi lets out a yelp and runs off. Excuse me. Gran raises a hand to scratch the back of his neck. Still as scatterbrained as ever. He lowers his arm. A smile flickers in his eyes, though that is certainly her style. Gran turns and walks toward the kitchen. He pushes open the double doors. Before she gets back, he'll whip up a simple dessert to go with it. He stops abruptly. Who was that person passing by in the hallway just now? Well, hello there. Aang is leaning against the hallway wall. One hand is on his hip. He lets out a lazy yawn. Gran pushes the door open. He looks at the silver-haired man. Aang. This is the first time you've ever come to see me of your own accord. Aang tilts his head slightly. His gaze is nonchalant. I suppose. He looks Gran up and down. His eyes settle on the apron around Gran's waist. What's with the apron? Is this some kind of joke? Gran's face turns bright red instantly. He clutches the edges of the apron with both hands. This isn't. He scratched the back of his head in frustration. What exactly do you want? Just say it. Hein's lips curled upward, forming OA, meaningful and suggestive smirk. It's about that attendant of yours. Gran's brows knit tightly. His purple pupils suddenly constricted. As he stared intensely at the man before him, Aang lowered his eyelids halfway, his gaze lazy and teasing. Soon he will no longer belong to you. Gran's expression darkened, OA chill flashing deep in his eyes. What do you mean by that? N tilted his head up slightly, his lips curving into OA provocative arc. That girl. I'm taking her with me. Ludi walked through the woods alone, letting out OA long, heavy sigh. Gran gazed ahead, his eyes filled with focus. So, from now on, would you be willing to continue as my attendant? Ludi lowered her eyes. I ran away before I could give him an answer. About the matter of changing attendants, I should have told him right then. But in that situation, how could I have brought it up? He even went as far as cooking for me personally, and waited for me to return. Now it's going to be very hard to turn back. A bead of cold sweat formed on Ludi's temple, her gaze wavering with uncertainty. Ludi came to OA halt. Hiding behind OA thick tree trunk, she watched the two people talking ahead. They were palace officials. The two men stood with their backs to the woods. One of them raised OA hand to rub his temples. With the poor harvests year after year, the damage caused by monsters has also started to surface. It's OA real headache. Ludi held her breath, her pupils trembling slightly. Poor harvests, monsters. Could it be that the sacred spirit tree is accumulating miasma? This land was originally heavily contaminated, so desolate that humans couldn't even live here. It wasn't until the sacred spirit tree appeared and absorbed all the miasma that the land's vitality was finally restored. But if there is no senses to purify the sacred tree, the land will wither once again. The monster spawned by the miasma will devour everything. This is strange. Even though there hasn't been OA senses since my death, the miasma is accumulating far too quickly. Even monsters have already started to appear. Cynics never mentioned any of this. Did he hide it from me on purpose, just to keep me from feeling pressured? Is everyone at the orphanage doing okay? If the previous senses Ludi were still alive, would things be any different? Despite her poor reputation, she truly possessed immense divine power. Perhaps we all misunderstood her. The official's brow furrowed, cold sweat dripping from his temple. It's too late to say those things now. Ludi turned her head away. OA, trace of loneliness in her eyes. Are you only realizing this now? The official lowered his voice. I heard the successor is Minister Hein's daughter. Who knows how that'll turn out? Ludi hid behind OA tree, her pupils contracting slightly. So the next census is Erica. Erica Aang. She was the candidate with divine power second only to mine. With her prominent family background, the position of census should have been hers for the taking. But I was the one who took that spot. From then on, she viewed me as her mortal enemy. She was the leader of those trainees, and the mastermind who spread the rumors about the senses being loose. Ludi stood among the trees, resting her fingertip on her lower lip. Could she be the mastermind? She doesn't seem like she belongs with that lot. They were just minor players. Hey, you over there. Erica stepped forward. Erica approached with two of her followers, her gaze sharp and icy. She looked down on Ludi, scrutinizing her. Her pupils constricted. Am no longer Ludi. Why am I still being targeted? Erica pointed ahead, questioning loudly. You're Lord Gran's attendant, aren't you? Ludi hunched her shoulders, her eyes filled with panic. Yais. Erica stood with her hands on her hips. Her two followers spoke in an aggressive tone. How did you seduce him? To think you'd dare fawn over him before the census candidates? A follower crossed her arms over her chest. OA, mocking sneer on her lips. I don't care if you're OA distant relative of the Grand Priest. This is simply too insolent. Ludi stood frozen, her pupils dilating slightly. I almost forgot that's the identity cynics made up for me. Hayes claiming him his relative to the public. Although the four holy knights are all highly revered, Gran is the only one who has always kept his distance from everyone. Ludi pressed OA's hand to her lower lip, her eyes reflecting OA's sense of helplessness. For someone like me, to suddenly become his sole attendant, of course they'd be displeased. How did I do it? Ludi raised her index finger, OA radiant smile on her face. I just showed my face at the annex every day, until he finally decided to hire me. Erica stood stunned, her pupils shrinking. What? She suddenly clenched her fists, her cheeks puffing out and turning red. She let out OA furious roar. Stop being OA nuisance to Lord Gran. Ludi tilted her head, her expression unreadable. She's actually surprisingly reasonable. Suddenly, one of the followers lunged forward, shoving Ludi hard on the shoulder. Ludi lost her balance. Falling backward, she let out OA's sharp cry. Ow! The follower pointed at Ludi and shouted, You're just getting in the way. Lord Gran is destined to be Lady Erica's knight. She's the next census, after all. The attendant leaned into Erica's ear. With a malicious glint in her eyes, she suggested treating this woman exactly as they had treated the previous senses. Let's teach this woman a lesson. We could ruin her face. Or perhaps just lock her away. Erica stood frozen in place. Her pupils trembled. Her fingers twisted together anxiously. The attendants' faces contorted as they let out sharp grating laughter. After all, Lady Erica is the daughter of OA minister, and she's the future. Anything she does will be forgiven. Right, this is going too far. There's no need to go that far. Ludi watched the farce unfolding before her. Her expression was one of total shock. I always thought Erica was the one giving the orders, but looking at her now, Erica kept her head low. Cold sweat beaded on her temple. She looked extremely ill at ease. So the true masterminds behind the bullying of the senses were actually them. Carl leaned out from behind OA tree. The dark pendant on his earlobe swayed gently. Oh, it looks like you're all having a lot of fun. Carl leaped down from OA high branch. He landed lightly on his feet, kicking up OA flurry of green leaves. What are you all doing? He stood with one hand on his hip. He stood before the crowd. OA flippant smile played on his lips. Ludi looked up. Her pupils wavered slightly. OA drop of cold sweat rolled down her temple. Erica froze in place. Oh, a chill ran down her spine. Lord Burn. Burn stepped toward the group. His hair swayed in the breeze. To wake up and see so many lovely girls is quite OA surprise. He leaned down toward Erica. His gaze was playful. Are you having OA friendly little girls gathering? Erica's face turned bright red. She waved her hands frantically in panic. Well, we were just... Burn lowers his stance. OA dangerous smile curls the corners of his mouth. Or perhaps you're jealous of Gran's attendant and teamed up to bully her. Erica freezes in place. Her hands fly open in terror. Cold sweat trickles down the follower's cheeks. Carl crosses his arms. He stands nearby. Hey, so this is where you were. Burn, you dumped your paperwork on me again? Burn straightens up. He spreads his hands. Sorry. Everyone has things they're good at and things they're not, right? Carl lets out OA sigh. Honestly, enough already. He stares ahead through his lenses. His gaze is sharp. Carl crosses his arms. So, what are the census candidates doing here? Erica freezes in place. Her pupils tremble violently. The two followers hide behind her. They break out in OA cold sweat. It's nothing. The followers spin around and flee in OA panic. Wait. Oh, a minute. Erica stops. She turns her head, her eyes filled with complex emotions. Then she runs off again. Ludi places OA hand over her heart. She watches the retreating figure. Her expression is puzzled. Erica, maybe. Her true nature is completely different from what I knew back when I was the senses. Ludi turns away. She bows her head in thought. A spark of curiosity rises within her. Burn leans in close. Carl pushes up his glasses. One on the left and one on the right. They flank Ludi. So you're Gran's attendant? So you really do exist. Ludi turns her head sharply. Her pupils suddenly constrict. To think I'd run into the Holy Knight twins in OA place like this? Ludi bowed her head and gave a respectful salute. Thank you for your help just now. Burn stepped aside. He spread his palms. A casual smile playing on his lips. I didn't really do much, honestly. More importantly, Burn leaned down closer. His eyes filled with amusement. How did you manage to win Gran's favor? I'm truly curious. So, how about having tea with me sometime? Carl crossed his arms and interrupted coldly. You're hitting on people again. Doing it while I'm not around, no less? Save your shallow invitations. He turned to leave, his back looking resolute. I'm going back to work? Burn threw up his hands, looking completely helpless. You're so stiff, brother. He waved at Carl's retreating figure. See you later. Remember to say hi to Gran for me. Ludi froze in place. Her eyes shut tight. Her expression was numb. She walked toward the grand mansion alone. She pushed open the heavy white doors. The hem of her skirt swayed gently. In the end, it was just one accidental encounter after another. I didn't even get a chance to tell them about the change in caretakers. How embarrassing. She took a deep breath. Her gaze became determined. But I have to tell him properly this time. She threw the doors open and shouted, I am so sorry. I'm late? OA hand suddenly reached out and gripped her wrist tightly. Ludi let out a cry of surprise. Her pupils dilated instantly. Her body lost its balance, and she tumbled forward. The heavy white doors slammed shut behind her. Letting out a muffled thud, she was pinned against the door. Unable to move, Gran braced one hand against the door, trapping Ludi between his arms. Ludi looked up, her eyes wide with shock. Lord Gran. Gran lowered his gaze, his bangs shadowing his eyes. His voice was low and raspy. After you left, Aang stopped by. Is Lulu yours? Gran suddenly looked up. What nonsense are you talking? Aang had his hands in his pockets. Lazy smile playing on his lips. I heard it from Grand Priest Cynics. That girl's master is being changed from you to me? Gran froze on the spot, his pupils shrinking instantly. Cold sweat rolled down his temple. Aang shrugged, his tone breezy. Isn't it normal for attendants to be reassigned? Mine are constantly being replaced. The corners of his mouth curled up. Into meaningful smile. Usually I wouldn't care. But when you've finally found someone you like, isn't it strange to switch them out on purpose? Don't you find that odd? Gran's eyes were dark and somber. Drop of cold sweat slid down his cheek. He lapsed into silence. Aang brushed the hair off his forehead. I went to ask the Grand Priest about it, he said. Cynics folded his hands. His eyes half closed, his expression serene. She is just OA trainee who only recently joined the temple. To help her gain experience, I am having her switch to OA, different master, but that's just OA pretext. The truth is, that girl is probably tired of being with you, don't you think? Gran stood frozen in place. Her pupils quivered. Her breath hitched. Just then he spun around and roared at Heinz receding back. Aang waved his hand without even turning around. In any case, since hell be my attendant soon, you should say your goodbyes now. Ludi squeezed her eyes shut, her brows knitting together. Aang. The Grand Priest went to such lengths to find OA reasonable excuse for the transfer. Stop acting like OA brat and fanning the flames everywhere. Gran lowered his eyes, his gaze falling upon Ludi's face. His expression was heavy with conflict. As I thought, even if it puts you in danger, I still want to keep you by my side. Am I being too selfish? Ludi looked up, panic flashing in her eyes. No. Gran suddenly lunged forward. He pinned her shoulders firmly against the door. Ludi's cheeks turned crimson. Her body went rigid against the wood. Aang was right. He stared deep into Ludi's eyes, his voice low and tinged with a hint of vulnerability. Have you already started to hate me? Ludi held her breath, her eyes full of confusion and turmoil. I don't actually hate you. Ludi clenched her fists and shouted as she looked up. If anything, I'm liking you more and more every day. You're not just an amazing holy knight. You're also a hardworking person. And even your cooking is wonderful. Gran stood there, frozen. A faint blush surfaced on his cheeks. He quickly looked away. Ludi cupped her cheeks in her hands, her eyes sparkling. Well, it's true, I was in danger. It wasn't Lord Gran's fault at all. Her eyes were filled with pure admiration. When you protected me, you looked really cool. That's why I cherish it. Gran suddenly reached out and covered her mouth. Enough, he avoided Ludi's gaze, looking flustered. I get it now, so just be quiet. Gran let go of her. I'm sorry. He raised a hand to his forehead. I can't believe I fell for Heinz's provocation. So, the rotation of attendants really is just to gain experience. Yes, his expression became serious. Although Aang is a genius swordsman, his personality is far too casual. Being his attendant will be quite exhausting. Ludi lowered her gaze. Remembering Heinz's lazy attitude, I know him all too well. Back when I was still this, he caused me quite a bit of trouble. Gran turned around and gazed at Ludi with a serious expression. If you run into any serious problems, you must let me know. No matter how bad it gets, I'm ready to help you at a moment's notice. Ludi stood frozen in place. Her eyes widened slightly. An a blush crept onto her cheeks. Thank you so much. Hearing you say that gives me so much strength. Lord Gran. A small smile tugged at Gran's lips. His eyes were gentle, and his cheeks were tinged with a faint pink. Good luck. Ludi nodded firmly. Flashing a bright smile. I will. She stood before the magnificent building, her posture tall and straight. Taking a deep breath. From today on, I'm finally going to serve as Heinz's attendant. There are two very suspicious things about him. Aang was seen sprinting behind the temple, looking completely panicked. A Gardner witnessed this. On the very day I was murdered. Ludi's brow furrowed, her gaze dropping to the floor. For Aang to lose his composure like this, something extremely abnormal must have happened. Perhaps it was after he disposed of me. There is another possibility. That woman who lured Lord Gran away, she used to be Heinz's attendant. According to the Grand Priest's investigation, she had already resigned before my funeral. She left the home in the countryside she was supposed to return to, and there has been no news of her since. It is all too suspicious. Ludi stands in the hallway, her expression grave. Aang already has several attendants. I might be able to gather some information from them. First, I need to build a good rapport. She knocks lightly on the door. The door is pulled open abruptly. A male servant wearing round glasses rushes out. They nearly collide. Ludi gasps. The bespectacled servant stops and looks her up and down. You are Ludi, quickly puts on Oa's smile. I am Lord Hines' new attendant. I just started today. Tears suddenly stream down the servant's face. Ludi is left utterly bewildered. He wheels around and waves toward the room, shouting, Hey, everyone, look. The new sacrificial lamb is finally here. Ludi is surrounded by 3 servants. Oh, thank you. I really cannot take any more of this. He leans in and whispers in Ludi's ear. Oa, twisted smile on his face. Welcome to hell. You are our beacon of hope. Ludi freezes in place, her pupils trembling. This warm welcome is actually making me feel very uneasy. The bespectacled servant pushes her from behind, forcing her into the room. All right. In you go. Ludi pushes the door open. She is completely stunned by the scene inside. This was once Oa's magnificent drawing room, but now it is Oa's total wreck. The green sofa is splattered with red blood. The wooden barrel was stuffed with Geshin. Broken porcelain shards and bloody handprints were scattered across the floor. Cold sweat beaded on Ludi's forehead. Her back went stiff. Compared to Lord Grand's tidy palace, this is Oa's completely different world. The bespectacled servant looked dejected. Lord Hines' unpredictable personality always catches us off guard. At first, everyone admired Lord Aang. He achieved great military feats in the Monster Crusades. Countless people scrambled to become his attendant. The bespectacled servant spread his hands. He let out Oa's long sigh. But in the end, everyone left discouraged. No one could last very long. We used to have Oa a lot of people. Now, only these few maids are left. He tightly grasped Ludi's hand. His eyes were full of admiration. I heard that under the iron-armed Lord Gran, you performed exceptionally well. You're practically Oa legend among attendants. Ludi gave Oa a dry laugh. Oh, a drop of cold sweat rolled down her temple. Is that so? It seems that, for better or worse, I've become the subject of rumors. Ludi's gaze drifted. She thought to herself, for the investigation to go smoothly, it's better if I don't draw too much attention. The bespectacled servant patted Ludi on the shoulder. His expression became excited again. Then, I'll leave it to you. Our promising newcomer. Lord Aang is in his room. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Please, whatever you do, don't give up. Ludi stood before the tall, white double doors. She took a deep breath. She pushed the door open slightly. Excuse me? She slipped sideways into the room. She froze once she saw the state of the room. Bloodstains and scattered papers were everywhere on the floor. Overturned tableware and clutter were piled in the corners. This place is unbelievably filthy. Looks like there's a mountain of cleaning to do. There was a lump under the covers of the large bed. A dull sound echoed. A figure wiggled beneath the covers. Ludi took a half-step back. She clasped her hands together nervously. Apologies, were you resting? The blanket was suddenly flung aside. Aang sat up with a mess of tangled hair. Strands of silver hair covered half his face. His collar was stained with dried blood. Ludi steadied her nerves. I just came to give a brief self-introduction. Oa's hand suddenly reached out toward her. Ludi let out Oa's startled cry. She lost her balance. She fell heavily onto the soft mattress. Her back sank into the bedding. Aang rolled over and pinned her down. His hands braced on either side of her body. Messy hair fell over his forehead. The bloodstains on his lapel were right in front of her eyes. Hines' eyes were unfocused. He murmured in Oa's low voice, Wait, Oa minute. Why are you in my bed? Because you're the one who pulled me in. Ludi's expression was frantic. Hay's not fully awake yet. I have to get out of here fast. From today on, I am Lord Hines. Attendant, my name is Lulu. So, could you please let go of me? Aang tilted his head. His gaze fell upon her. He remained silent. Aang leaned down and buried his face in the crook of her neck. Ludi's body went rigid. Hey, wait. Oh, a second. Aang closed his eyes. He lightly nuzzled her neck with his nose. Lulu, you smell nice. Like a puppy basking in the sun. Ludi looked stunned. A puppy. What kind of scent is that? Aang leaned closer to her ear. His breath was warm. It's so comforting. Ludi let out a cry of surprise. She hunched her shoulders. Hines' eyelids hung low. He looked weary. I'm sleepy again. Sorry, he leaned over and slumped onto the pillow. He fell into a deep sleep. Ludi sat by the bedside. She watched the man sleeping soundly beside her. Her expression was complex. He really fell asleep. I can't predict this guy's actions at all. Being Hines' attendant is next to impossible. Week later, the difficulty proved to be far beyond her imagination. Aang walked down the hallway barefoot, completely soaking wet. Water droplets slid down his hair. Ludi chased after him, clutching the hem of her skirt. She scolded him loudly. Don't run around everywhere while you're soaking wet. Aang sat at the dining table. He stared at the green vegetables on his plate. His brow was deeply furrowed. I don't like eating this. Ludi pointed at the plate. Her tone was firm. Please, eat at least some of your vegetables. Aang burrowed into the covers. 5 more minutes. Ludi tugged hard on the corner of the quilt. Her temple throbbed slightly. The temple is summoning you. Ludi slumped into OA chair. She looked haggard. I'm exhausted. If I don't get used to this hectic life soon, I won't have any time to investigate. OA footman patted her on the shoulder. Another maid walked in with OA teacup. The footman adjusted his glasses. Good work, star rookie. Have some tea? Ludi took the teacup. Her fingertips trembled slightly. Thank you so much. She took OA warm sip. Steam rose from the tea. You guys are amazing. That's selfish man, I mean. I can't believe you've managed to stay as Lord Hind's attendant. We only stayed because the new ones keep quitting. But even to us veterans, Lulu, you're the most impressive one. I can't believe you can speak your mind so directly to Lord Aang. Ludi lowered her eyes with OA wry smile. He doesn't listen to OA word anyone says. The male servant speaks with passion. Lord Aang possesses OA level of prowess that more than makes up for his selfishness. For instance, during the war with the neighboring kingdom a few years ago, he single-handedly cut down 300 enemies. The maid pushes up her glasses. If Lord Gran is the Purple Reaper, then Lord Aang is the White Sword Saint. Though Hei's usually OA slacker, he is unmatched on the battlefield and when subjugating demonic beasts. The male servant spreads his arms. His swordsmanship is enough to leave even men in awe. And surprisingly, he never misses OA single sword practice. Taking care of him is definitely exhausting. But somehow you just can't bring yourself to leave him alone. Ludi takes OA's small sip of her hot tea. She is lost in thought. I'm not cut out for that kind of sweaty, grueling work. You look like the type of person who wastes their life just for the sake of effort. Hind's past words echo in her mind. I thought he was just an arrogant jerk, looking down on others because of his natural talent. But maybe there's more to him than that. Back when I was the same, people who didn't know me at all would always judge me recklessly based on their own biases. That wasn't a pleasant feeling. I want to find out what kind of person Aang truly is. The male servant raises his index finger. His expression is fanatical. Speaking of Lord Hind's swordsmanship, the most stunning part is his signature technique for OA single, lethal piercing strike to the heart. Ludi's pupils contract sharply. Cold sweat trickles down her cheek. OA piercing strike to the heart. That matches the wound left by the weapon used to kill me. A servant rushes into the room in OA panic. He is gasping for air. This is bad. This is really bad. Lord Aang. Ludi jumps to her feet. What happened? A powerful demonic beast has appeared at the palace's back gate. The royal knights are no match for it at all. Lord Aang happened to be there. And Hei's currently fighting it all alone? The monster opens its massive bloody maw. It let out a deafening roar. Aang gave a lazy yawn. He looked utterly languid. Ludi stood there clenching her teacup. Her brow was knit tight with worry. To think such a powerful monster would appear now? Could even Aang be in danger? This is an emergency. The footman and the maid exchanged a glance. Their expressions were solemn. Oh, how terrifying. Wait, could this be? The footman suddenly grabbed Ludi's shoulders. A glint flashed off his glasses. Golden opportunity. Ludi, the newcomer, was left stunned. Her pupils quivered slightly. Drop of cold sweat beaded on her temple. Ludi's eyes widened. Lord Aang is in the middle of a battle, and they're saying this is an opportunity for me. The footman held her shoulders firm. Newbie, you haven't seen him in action yet, have you? The fight? Just leave the chores to us. Quick, go see it with your own eyes. The maid adjusted her glasses. You absolutely cannot miss his swordsmanship. Ludi clutched the front of her dress. Everyone isn't anyone worried. Lord Aang might get hurt by that monster. The footman's expression went deadpan. What on earth are you talking about? Lord Aang would never lose. Ludi stumbled forward as the footman shoved her. How can they trust him this much? The footman pushed up his glasses again. You'll understand once you see it. You'll definitely be captivated by him. Ludi looked hesitant. Is that man really capable of? The setting sun stained the palace gates crimson. The afterglow spilled over the iron railing. The giant serpent monster bared its bloody maw. Its red pupils locked onto its prey. It let out a deafening roar. Ludi hid behind a tree trunk, her body trembling slightly. That's a real monster. It's even more massive and ferocious than I imagined. Where is Aang? There he is. Aang stands with his back to the giant snake. He holds his long sword in his right hand. His white cloak flutters in the breeze. Aang lowers his gaze. His expression is tinged with laziness. What, Total drag? Aang unsheathes his sword with one hand. The purple longsword points downward at an angle. Let's finish this quickly, and then head back to eat some cookies. The giant snake monster lunges with its jaws open. Aang sidesteps to dodge. His white cloak traces an arc through the air. He suddenly leaps into the air. His figure streaks past the snake's body like an F. The monster thrashes. Its tail sweeps across. Aang tumbles in midair. His toes tap lightly. He uses the scales to push himself even higher. He dives down. The longsword erupts with OA blue glow. It precisely slices through the monster's back. Blood spatters everywhere. OA bloom of blood erupts from the snake's back. Blood sprays from the wound. Aang lands steadily. That cut was OA bit shallow. The giant snake lets out OA piercing shriek. Its red eyes glare fixedly at the man before it. Aang shifts his grip on the hilt. That hide is pretty tough. In that case, he lowers his center of gravity. He grips the sword with both hands and holds it across his body. Aang swings the longsword. OA blue light pierces through the giant snake's head. Blood pours down like rain. The snake tilts its head back for OA final hiss. Its body collapses limply backward. It slams heavily onto the ground. Aang sheaths his sword. Oh, a few drops of blood are visible on his face? I guess you'll just have to aim for your weak points. Ludi watches everything from behind OA tree. Her pupils tremble with shock. This is incredible. His swordsmanship and combat instincts are on OA completely different level. And his fighting stance was like, oh, a dance. Ludi watched the battlefield, her brow furrowing slightly. But why is Aang fighting all by himself? She turned her head to look into the distance. Several royal knights were huddled together. The royal knights were supposed to be here as well. Even if they can't hurt the monsters, they should at least be supporting him. The knights leaned against their spears, chatting, with frivolous smiles on their faces. Luckily, one of the 4 holy knights showed up. Being praised by everyone as the white sword saint must feel pretty great, huh? At OA time like this, he ought to be working harder than any of us. Ludi's brow tightened as she watched the knights in the distance. What kind of attitude is that? I've heard some rumors about the royal knights. Don't think too highly of those idolized 4 holy knights. Even so, one knight spread his hands. OA, mocking smirk on his face. Just let him fight to his heart's content. He's OA genius, after all. He's not like us ordinary folk. It'd be even funnier if he and the monster took each other out. The knights burst into OA fit of laughter. Then all the credit would go to us. Ludi whipped her head around, her eyes cold. I really can't just sit by and do nothing. She stepped forward, her back radiating determination. The demonic serpent let out OA pained whimper, its massive body twitching violently, thrashing wildly on the ground. Aang stood up unsteadily, his silver hair soaked in blood. Aang raised OA hand to wipe the blood from his cheek. Phew, beat. If I go back covered in blood like this, Lulu is definitely going to nag me to death again. At least clean yourself up before coming inside. The image of her scolding him with her hands on her hips flashed through his mind. It's not like it's any of her business if I get dirty. She really is OA strange one. Aang turned his head, his gaze falling upon the group of knights in the distance. Yeah, those guys. Haze, OA genius. Haze not like us ordinary people. OA, slight curve formed at the corner of Hind's mouth, but his eyes were completely devoid of laughter. Oh, the royal knights. Aang lowered his eyelids. That jealousy and resentment is even more irritating than usual. I really wish they'd stop venting their inferiority complexes on me. I've really had enough. Hey, you lot. Ludi stood with her hands on her hips, blocking the path of the knights. Fury burned in her eyes. I've been listening to this for long enough. Aang tilted his head slightly. That petite figure was reflected in his eyes. He looked OA bit taken aback. Ludi pointed right at the knights' noses and shouted, What on earth are you blathering about? Lord Aang saved your lives. Not only do you not thank him, but you're standing here talking nonsense. One of the knights let out OA's scoff. Ha! Who does this little brat think she is? Ludi puffed out her chest. I am Lord Hind's attendant. You sheathe your swords and dump the entire burden of slaying monsters onto one person. Don't you feel any shame at all? The knights' faces filled with shock. What? Ludi continued her sharp interrogation. You even had the nerve to say you'd go down together. To someone putting their life on the line on the battlefield? How dare you say such OA thing? Aang stood behind her. He looked OA bit dazed. Whether you're ordinary or OA genius, it has nothing to do with your resolve to fight. Aang stood frozen in place. His pupils trembled slightly. One of the knights, snapping in humiliation, yelled, You little brat, shut your mouth. You're just OA lowly attendant. He suddenly lunged forward with his gauntleted right hand. Ludi gritted her teeth. She stood her ground without moving an inch. In an instant, Aang blurred forward. He stands in front of Ludi. Pulling her into his embrace, Ludi looks up. Lord Aang. With blood on the corner of his mouth, Aang turns his head slightly. Hey, Were you planning on laying a hand on her just now? The knights freeze, paralyzed with fear. Cold sweat trickles down their temples. Hein's right hand tightens around the hilt of his sword, his knuckles turning white from the grip, keeping Ludi protected in his arms. I'm not exactly the forgiving type when it comes to this. Not at all. You already defeated the monster. Aang lowers his gaze. It only took 5 minutes. It was child's play. With blood still on his lip, his eyes are full of mockery. Unlike that group over there who call themselves knights, I doubt they could manage it in a lifetime. Cold sweat breaks out across the knights' foreheads. They look on in utter shock. Aang lets out a soft laugh. How pathetic. Boasting of being knights. Yet you can't even handle a single monster? Perhaps you should have turned in your resignations a long time ago. Ludi struggles to break free. Stop provoking them. One of the knights grits his teeth, his hands trembling as they clutch his sword hilt. You and that woman. How dare you treat us like fools? He suddenly draws his sword. The blade points directly forward. He lets out a furious roar. Aang turns his head slightly. A cold, sharp glint reflecting in his eyes. Since you've drawn your blade, he lets go of Ludi. His right hand grips his own hilt steadily. Since it's come to this, you've no right to complain even if you end up dead. Aang moves as fast as lightning, instantly knocking the longsword from the knight's hand. The knight screams in pain and crashes heavily to the ground. Her pupils contract with fear. She lets out a small gasp. Aang approaches the knight, sword in hand. Do you want to continue? The knight scrambles to his feet in a pathetic state. He grits his teeth. Damn it. Let's go. Aang sheaths his sword. He watches as the group flees in panic. Truly, they are hopelessly weak. Lulu, are you all right? Are you hurt? Ludi suddenly snaps back to her senses. She quickly responds, yes. Thank you very much. Lord Aang, your swordsmanship was absolutely incredible. Aang avoids her gaze. He looks slightly awkward. It was nothing. Just my usual level of performance. He lowers his head slightly. Faint smile plays on his lips. And about my part, thank you for standing up for me just now. Aang turns his back. His white cloak is stained with blood. And for helping me teach those guys a lesson? Ludi stands frozen on the spot. Her pupils tremble slightly. Aang suddenly turns his head away. He avoids her gaze. Blush creeps onto his cheeks. Ludi hardly catches up to him. Please, wait. Lord Aang. I feel like I'm getting to know Aang a little better, bit by bit. But at the same time, if he had wanted to kill me when I was the senses, that one strike would have been enough. My suspicion of him being the killer grows even stronger. His pupils contract slightly. I must do as I did with Gran, and uncover the truth one step at a time. Aang drags his longsword along. He walks toward the heart of the forest. His back looks solitary. Night falls. The mansion is brightly lit. Manservant pushes open the grand doors. He looks excited. Tonight's dinner. It is to celebrate your successful monster subjugation. Ludi stands behind Aang. Her expression is conflicted. The manservant spreads his arms. He points to the long table laden with desserts. We have prepared Lord Hein's favorite foods. Ludi stands to the side. A bead of cold sweat trickles down her temple. The ones who spoil Lord Aang the most, aren't they actually these attendants? Aang lowers his gaze. He calls out softly, Lulu, you're always telling me I should have a balanced diet. Ludi is momentarily stunned. She responds somewhat awkwardly, yes. Aang looks at the exquisite cakes on the table. Rather than these sweets, I'd much rather eat what you recommended. Aang lowers his gaze. There is a hint of testing in his eyes. If I eat those vegetables, I hate. Would that make you happy? Ludi raises a finger. She presses it against her lower lip. Her expression is hesitant. Well, while I do think that would be remarkable, but Aang rests his chin on his hand. He stares at the dessert cup in front of him. He looks somewhat dejected. Save these desserts as snacks. Go and prepare a proper meal for me. Aang crosses his arms. His expression becomes lively. I'll eat every single bite. Nothing will be left. The manservant pushes up his glasses. He shouts excitedly, go prepare it at once. Ludi freezes in place. Her eyes widen in shock. What on earth is going on? That willful demon king Aang has actually had a change of heart. Ludi stares at the tomatoes on the cutting board. Memories of Hein's picky eating flash through her mind. He hated vegetables. He hated fish. He used to be such a stubborn man. She picks up a tomato. Her expression becomes somewhat complicated. This is nothing short of a miracle. Lord Aang is actually going to eat his vegetables. The footman and the maid crowded around Ludi. Their voices were full of excitement. This is all thanks to Lulu's hard work, isn't it? Ludi waved her hands dismissively. She looked flustered. No, I didn't do anything. The footman adjusted his glasses. His tone was certain, as expected of the legendary attendant. Lulu, we're leaving Lord Aang in your hands from now on. I really didn't do anything. Ludi stared straight ahead. Her pupils trembled slightly. A bead of sweat formed on her temple. And how did things even end up like this? Ludi sat stiffly on the bench. Aang was lying with his head in her lap. He was eating cookies. As a reward for finishing his vegetables. He actually demanded a lap pillow. Aang held up his empty plate. His eyes were full of expectation. Praise me. Is he acting like a spoiled child? Aang rested his head on her knees. Faint blush crept onto his cheeks. Could it be that Hayes actually become dependent on me? The others watched with warm expressions, and then left. They even thoughtfully closed the door. Ludi lowered her gaze. A drop of cold sweat rolled down her temple. Now is the perfect chance. Maybe I can use this opportunity to gather some information. Ludi put on Oa's smiling face. She praised him softly. I saw a whole new side of you today. You really are powerful, Lord Aang. You don't seem all that flustered. Aang pressed a fingertip against his lower lip. I suppose so. By the way, I heard that someone saw you running away from the back of the temple in a panic. I thought that sounded quite unusual. When exactly did that happen? He pursed his lips tightly. His throat bobbed as he swallowed hard. Well, I have to keep pressing him right now. On the day the former census was killed, Aang turned his head slightly. A knowing look flickering in his eyes. Was it back then? Ludi lowered her gaze, her expression looking somewhat strained, unease written all over her face. Aang suddenly sat up, his tone carrying a hint of amusement. Do you want to know? The reason why I was so flustered back then? Ludi snapped her head up, her eyes full of shock and suspicion. I really want to know. Right? Aang raised his index finger to his lips, a faint smirk curling on his mouth. Come closer, Ludi. Held her breath, her gaze filled with wary wonder. Aang reached out, his fingertips gently lifting her chin. They were mere inches apart. Hurried footsteps sounded from outside the door, accompanied by a servants' panicked protests. You can't just barge in like that. Please, stop. Gran threw the doors wide open, his black cloak billowing behind him. This is an emergency. All of you, out of my way. Ludi was jolted by the loud crash. That voice just now. Gran burst into the room, shouting her name at the top of his lungs. Ludi's mouth dropped open in terror. Gran stared fixedly at the two on the sofa, his eyes brimming with shock and fury. His breathing became heavy and ragged. The air completely froze at that moment.